Well, they're good. They got a good team. Obviously, they can stretch it, and they haven't shot it well yet. I think. Well, they're good. They got a good team. Obviously, they can stretch it, and they haven't shot it well yet. I think as a group, they're shooting about. I could be off 31-4, something like that, 33, but it's well below what they're capable of shooting, and they're shooting a ton of them. They're averaging, I think, right around 30, and I'd say shot 40 plus against a Nebraska I know. So if I was going to be critical of us, I would say the ability to take that away. And so you would think that they'll shoot an awful lot against us if we're not great at taking that away. And then Kalkbrenner is the best big guy we've gone against. And even though he hasn't scored the ball like he did early, but, getting 49 in one game on 22 shots is very impressive. And I know they'll try to get him the ball down there. It'll be a good matchup between Hunt and him. As long as, he's able to go. And I don't know what that status is right now because I don't believe he played in the last game, if I'm not mistaken.
Bill, you mentioned it.
If you go back and look at it, didn't we host Creighton here a few years ago and in the same challenge? And Marcus made 2 or 3 instead of 3 or 3. That would have sent it to overtime. Isn't that right? At the very end of the game. So we were fortunate to win that game in front of 1,500 people, and 900 were probably Creighton fans if I remember right. So I actually disappointing that we didn't get a chance to really play Creighton at home in a true home game. Also lucky that we won it, but I kind of figured that's where the return game would go.
Carry on my wayward son.
Are we sure we don't have any more Bill Self to play?
It's our allotment for the season.
Wow. Come on, man.
I thought you'd like that.
Yeah, but that was like 4 minutes of Bill Self. I like Bill Self. We don't need 4 minutes of Bill Self to kick off the show.
The big night. Big night.
It's
a good morning.
Good thing there's only 3 days left of the Gary Sharp Show. That was one of the low points in the history of the Gary Sharp Show.
Wow. 2 weeks.
Wow. No,
Gary,
come on. We had 2 years of the Gary Sharp Show back in the day.
That's true.
Yes. That's true. Good morning, everybody. And Bill Self, who is in the city of Omaha for a huge basketball game tonight. The Wednesday slate, as the kids say on the playground, is hot. As Creighton and Kansas play downtown. Sneaky good game in the Big Sky Summit League Challenge over at 67th and Center at Baxter Arena between Omaha and Montana State. That's a big night in the Big East Big 12 Challenge. But Bill is in town.
Again.
Oh, I was thinking when I was driving in, Jimmy, I thought you might be dressed in uniform.
No.
I thought you might be wearing like the KU throwbacks with the shorts.
If it was a little warmer, our good friend, the captain, gave me a Paul Pierce jersey, and I'm going to save that for later. I thought about wearing it here, but the problem is in this studio, as you know, the temperatures fluctuate. So whereas in the summer, you kind of have to go in just a towel some days here, especially as the day goes on.
Excuse me?
It gets warm in here after we leave. And this time of the year, although right now it's kind of warm in here. Yesterday it was cold, so I can't keep up. So we went somewhere down the middle.
All right.
I had to pace myself. Everyone's just expecting me to come in full.
Hey, it is yours truly fights the battle here at 1620 The Jays. I remind guys, they have avoided me. Like Bishop has completely avoided me since that Friday night at the Chai. I have to remind everybody on the station that who's your daddy? Now it's your day today. A little bit different. People I think it's fair to say that people look at Nebraska basketball differently compared to KU basketball.
However, if Creighton wins tonight with using the transitive property, won't you be able to flex a little bit tomorrow?
Nebraska should be in the Final Four then if that is the
there
case.
You go. So
number one, KU is in town tonight. The status of Ryan Kalkbrenner, I think Vegas would think that he's playing. It's 4.5 that KU is the favorite tonight. Downtown for the 7:30 tip, which will have everything right here on the Zone. Big deal. Whether you're a Creighton fan, Kansas fan, and there's a combination of both.
The TV crew's a banger. It's all good.
It's a great basketball night. Mm-hmm. That's a big deal in this town that we get a non-con game albeit it was set up in the Big East Big 12 Challenge, but that Kansas and Creighton are playing.
This is great.
Yeah, I would say, we both have an affinity for Kansas and KU basketball. I think technically we're both sleeping with people that are KU alums. Oh no, wait, your wife's not an alum. But she's sleeping with you.
Yeah,
or at least I would hope that's still the
she's
same.
converted.
Okay,
You'd have been proud of the things she said at the Colorado game. You probably would have also been like, "Oh, whoa."
She filthy?
I'm surprised she didn't throw a Sal's dead deal in that. That's how bad she.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Welcome to Hump Day.
Yeah.
Get your game on. But
I'm the docile one.
this is, I think there is Lawrence, of course. There is Kansas City. And then probably the third most popular KU town
Omaha.
is Omaha. There's a lot of history of KU basketball in Omaha, whether it be, the NCAA tournament, of course, and the numerous times that they're here. Usually if Omaha is hosting and KU is a 1 seed, they're going to get assigned here. And there are a ton of KU people that are here. Most are very pleasant.
A lot of students from Omaha, as I found out.
They like to drink. I know that there's a pretty good contingent of KU fans that are in town that were in downtown Omaha last night. Also, KU will be part of, and always part of, one of the best sporting events in the history of this city.
The Duke game.
The Elite Eight game between Kansas and Duke that went to overtime. That is one of the best sporting events I've ever been to.
Which is saying something.
Well, and I'm not alone. I think there were a lot of people that were at that game because of the atmosphere and just, you had banger after banger on both rosters and the way the game ended. That is, if you're making a list of the top 10 sporting moments in this city, the last time KU was here would be the case. And they are back tonight, 7:30 tip, and of course we'll have everything right here on the Zone. It's a big deal. It's a big deal, and the place is packed. It might be more expensive to go watch Nebraska volleyball than go watch KU-Creighton, but it is what it is. It's also a big night for the Big East. Big night for the Big East. They got off to a good start last night. Eric Dixon, who will never leave college, had 30, and they upset number 14 Cincinnati, so that was a big deal. But big deal for basketball. Good slate all across the board. We had a court storming last night. Will we have a court storming tonight?
Okay. I'm listening.
Beat number 1 UConn, storm the floor. If you beat number 1 KU, you have to storm the floor, right?
Because that's UConn. That's in the conference. This is Kansas.
Whoa.
It's like saying
you just flex
UConn,
there.
that's nice. You're playing, they're a good team. They're defending 2-time champions, but this is the Yankees of college basketball coming to town. This is the Lakers. This is Jordan and the Jordan
But
era.
people don't dislike KU, do they? Oh, though generally people like KU.
It depends where you are.
Maybe it depends on if you've had to go against them on the recruiting trail and they have an advantage that you don't have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But the Beatles are in town. You get the idea.
Which one would be Ringo? Hunter? We'll have much more on our thoughts on tonight's game between KU and Creighton. But welcome in, everybody. This is the Gary Sharp Show. There is Mr. KU, Jimmy. Peter is here as well.
Effing Peter, man, the man, as it says, from the great hippie Husker Cornbread on the stream.
Peter is once again doing double duty. He is the traffic reporter, and he is on the 1s and 2s in the studio.
And rock chalk to you too, hippie Husker Cornbread.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Hey, this is a day that if you're a Nebraska fan, you got to cheer for Creighton. That'd be a huge boost to Nebraska's resume, which because
usually many of them cheer for Kansas, so
that's true. That's true. The Skurhawk, as I like to refer to them. But I've started to look at a little bracketology now that the net ratings are out and we've had about a month of the college basketball season. Lenardi has both Nebraska and KU as the first 4 out. What an NIT matchup that would be. And then I think our good friend Tim Kruger, I saw yesterday, his first bracket has Creighton as a 10 seed.
Did he leave the beach yet? He was living his best life there a couple weeks ago.
But it's a big night for hoops.
It's great.
And we'll talk more about that. But welcome in. This is the last week of the Gary Sharp Show. We're down to 3 more days of this show, and then we're going to retire the name. And then Monday morning in this time slot, there will be a new co-host with yours truly. There will be a new name of the show. and we'll let all of you meet the new co-host coming up at, I think, 9 a.m. tomorrow. I think that's what we agreed on.
I have to text back SBH because I think some word got back to her that we said mornings would sharpen SBH. And I think she was like, wait, what? Did something happen? I was like, am I supposed to be there Monday at 6? So, Sarah, I will text you back and fill you in on the deal.
Whoa.
I hope she's here in time.
That her husband, Matthew, is a great sports guy. Fellow Cub fan, loves Nebraska basketball. I mean, like Sarah could hold her own.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That'd be a little surprise to all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes, but we can adjust. I think tomorrow. I think we're going to do it at 9 a.m. I think in our call yesterday, that was something that was discussed, but that particular person would have to be up at 9 a.m., which I reminded them that, the show starts at 6. So he's not a morning person necessarily.
So we'll get a Kerrigan here. Get him going.
Yes.
You get used to it.
Yes, we will. So that's what we'll introduce you to my new co-host coming up tomorrow, but this is the last week of the Gary Sharp Show. But while we are here, we have plenty to talk about because today we bitch and moan on this show about, oh, man, at 10 a.m. breaking news happens. People are saving breaking news from us.
And saving it for Connor Happer.
Yes, and then they can talk for the next 8 hours about Tony White.
I mean, you have Pull over there in Lincoln. Can you tell him to break something at 8:30? Give us a little bit hour and a half to kind of digest it all and discuss it.
I'm going to discuss some Tony White here. There's a lot of nonsense that's going on about Tony White.
You seem triggered.
Well, I'm not triggered. I'll save that here in just a second. Because I got thoughts, and I'm going to repeat something I said yesterday about why he's at Florida State that I think I am spot on. But back to today being a big day. So today is, we're just going to call it National Letter of Intent Signing Day. It's recruiting day.
Oh, yes, that's today.
Nebraska, as of right now, is going to add 19 players to their class. If I'm doing the math on Nebraska's roster of guys that are coming in, guys that have left in the first 2 days of portaling, Nebraska is still pretty hefty over the 105. Now, you do not have to be to the 105 until the first game of the season. Not when camp starts, but I was told yesterday by somebody that kind of has to do the numbers in Lincoln that it is the first game of the season. Now, I would hope they are right, because if they are not, then that would be a little uncomfortable. But Nebraska is still pretty well over the 105, and today they will add their recruiting class. But even more so, the witching hour coming up in the 8 o'clock hour this morning. You do not want to go anywhere because I think simultaneously 2 guys who could make a huge difference for Nebraska football moving forward will make their announcement. I believe that Cortez Mills and Michael Terry are both announcing at 8:15 this morning.
These are dudes.
So Michael Terry.
Hey, we got some breaking news before 10 a.m. Maybe. Oh, I was just saying Gary's thing.
Okay.
That they aren't going to wait until after the show gets over.
No. 8:15, they're locked and loaded.
What do you mean Hunter Dickinson didn't make the trip?
Well, okay, so I know Cortez Mills is 8:15, but you know how these work. So they will thank everybody in their family. They will thank all their teachers, all their coaches, all of that stuff. It's their moment. It's pretty cool deal.
Please respect my decision.
But nobody just sits down, gets introduced in these recruiting things, sits down, and they immediately tell you where they're going. They put on a little bit of a show, and you get to do it once. That's fine. But it looks like Cortez Mills and Michael Terry at 8:15 this morning are going to announce where they're going. Cortez Mills, Nebraska has gone all in. And if you judge some of the comments by like a Dawson Merritt or some of the social activity of players that are already in Nebraska's recruiting class that will be announced today, and at 1 o'clock Rule is speaking to the media, there is Cortez Mills. I think Nebraska feels pretty good about flipping him from Oklahoma, even though Oklahoma got a new offensive coordinator the other day and they retained his position coach. Nebraska's gone all in on a 4-star wide receiver at a program that might become sooner than later known for its wide receivers, which is crazy to think about.
Corn rate?
And then Michael Terry, who I think there's some NIL play for more attention and more money from Texas, But Texas, Oregon, and Nebraska are all in the mix. You never know. In this day and age, you never know. But both of those guys are scheduled to announce their commitments at about 8:15. And if Nebraska was able to go 2 for 2 there, I think they'll at least go 1 for 2. That would be a big, big deal for Hogo and his new young 29-year-old wide receiver coach that was hired yesterday.
29. I'm still stuck on the Oklahoma OC. I was reading up on him yesterday, and his story and where he went from a few years ago to now being the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. Hey, everybody's looking for the next Kenny Dillingham. So the original one may have been Dana Holgorsen. So I like their chances. Dana carries a lot of cred around. I mean, hey, dude's got a necklace with his name on it. That matters to some people.
If you're a wide receiver, this offense is going to become very appealing.
Yep.
Because you have a offensive coordinator that knows how to scheme, that has coached the position, that also knows how to scheme wide receivers open.
Good call on the wide receiver coach, by the way. Yesterday.
Yeah, that was probably worst kept secret when he's being escorted around campus. And you're like, oh, okay. You played for Dana Holgorsen, you coached for Dana Holgorsen, you're now in the SEC.
Does he work here, by the way?
Hey, Dukel, welcome. But yeah, Nebraska had their wide receiver coach yesterday. We may or may not see coaching movement today. Who knows? But I wanna go back. So love the passion, love the discussion. Some people just keep being a blowhard because they want to be right, even though they're not. And it just turns into a mess. And I actually have been surprised at some of the push on Tony White and what he did in 2 years at Nebraska. Have you been surprised by not the, oh man, but well, let's go inside of the numbers, and when you get right down to it, the defense wasn't, because there's a lot of opinions, and
yeah, I don't buy into any of that. The dude can coach. They had a great unit, and
were they an incredible black shirt 90s type defense? No. Were they good enough? Yes. Is he a good football coach? Yes.
Hell yes.
You know what? He made a choice. He changed his bio, and people are like, well, that's really soon. He's got a new job, okay?
Yeah.
He's in the Creighton business. He doesn't work here anymore. You know what? His defense, they set a standard. He did for 2 years what you asked him to do. You know, Nebraska got better in certain areas, and they gave you a chance to win football games.
If you left to be a head coach, would you still be as mad about it?
Well,
no.
Actually, leaving to be a head coach, I think would have been more of a detriment to Nebraska than going as a DC. I'll explain. But has it surprised you that there has been such a push and pull on Tony White?
Yes and no. Yes, because you've been very much on the bandwagon with him since the beginning. And so once you said that, listening to him talk, you're like, all right, hey, this guy, keep an eye on this guy. This is a big guy. The second thing where I'm not surprised is it's just kind of how it goes. It's kind of like someone breaks up with you and everything was, they were perfect. And now all of a sudden, you know what? I never really liked them. No. It's like Jack Parkman and his shimmy. At first, it drives the women in Cleveland crazy, but then at the end, it makes them puke. At the end of the day, the dude's a great ball coach. Hey, that's a huge hire, but it can still work out for all sides at the end. Yeah. Now, I don't think that's a cop-out. Look, Tony's growing as he wants to be a head coach. He goes down there. You talked about Florida yesterday. You never know what can happen for him. Can't fault him for that. Also, let's see who Nebraska brings in as the successor to that before we jump off a cliff.
Yeah, there's feelers out there.
I think they'll come back around to Tony
externally.
White. They'll come back around and be like, all right.
Well,
they'll root for him.
So,
because he always did and said the right things.
There's a couple of things in what you just said, Jimmy. One, so this is something to keep in mind. He didn't go to be a head coach. So he went to be a defensive coordinator, so an assistant coach instead of a head coach at Florida State. There's no buyout involved because the only buyout was if he was a head coach. But internally, Nebraska was concerned that if he became a head coach, there would be multiple members of the staff and players that could follow.
I wondered if
because as a head coach, you can control your staffing, you can control your roster. Now, thing to watch is, as a defensive coordinator coming into the Mike Norvell program, Tony doesn't have as much control over his staff or players he can bring. So in that case, if you're wondering about, man, and it's more of behind the scenes analyst guys that, you would bring to Florida State, it's probably a benefit for a little bit. Now there could be some former players that end up at Florida State, and there could be Terrence Knighton that ends up at Florida State, but you don't have as much control of being a DC. But I said yesterday, and I'm sticking with this because I heard the discussion, and I listened to both sides, and people have a lot of passion. Let's just acknowledge, good man, good football coach. Defense did enough to help you win. Were there flaws with it? There is no perfect defense, okay? But it was a defense that did not say, well, the offense did its part, and we could have won 6, we could have won 7, but the defense was a sieve. No, it wasn't that case. But this is the discussion about Florida State. I said yesterday, and this comes straight from a conversation in the summer with Tony, is he wants to be a head coach. There is no doubt of anybody's mind that he is preparing himself to be a head coach.
He looks and sounds the part, always has.
Yeah. He's very much he said the one thing I did in the first year under Matt, he said I observed a lot on how he interacted, not just with our team, but everything else.
Mm-hmm. And Rule teaches his guys. I mean, he likes mentoring coaches.
You're right. That's Rule is big on the coaching tree. He'd like to bring young guys in, coach them up, teach them, and then let them go elsewhere for a coordinator job or head coaching job. That's kind of, I think that's
how it should be.
I think Matt Rule is like passing it on. That's how he was when he got into the business. But in Tony's case, don't focus on Florida State as being the destination. And don't get caught up in, well, is this a lateral move or not? Tony White wants to be a head coach, but he really only wants to be a head coach in 2 states. Mm-hmm. The state that he was born in, where he is now, and where he did his best work, and that is California. Mm-hmm. Those are the 2 places he wants to be. A job opened up in the state of Florida. I don't think it has much to do with Florida State. Now you get into it and you've got, we got to win here and all of that kind of stuff. And I can recruit better to my defense, which maybe in the ACC works better in the Big Ten. And I have more access to athletes. And so Florida State's defense, which I do believe his defense there will work because of the type of athlete that he can get to it. But they went 2-10. I mean, they have another rough year. Tony might be looking somewhere else in Florida, California. Yeah. So I don't get caught up on Florida State is where he went.
And if it works out, he could be a head coach a year from now somewhere.
Exactly. I mean, if Dana Holgorsen wants to coach ball as the head man again, use Nebraska. Yep. Nebraska's going to use him. He's going to use Nebraska to rehab post-Houston, if that's what he wants to do. Right. He may just be a guy in the current landscape that says, hey, I just want to call ball, and when it's over, you know what? I'm going to retire. I got a good life. I got a lot of money, and I got a lot of friends, all that kind of stuff. And I'm just going to watch all of my proteges from afar. But
still pays well.
It does. But I think Tony went to a place that is in a state that he knows that where he wants to get is there. So I think the location was over the school. Now, I don't know if that makes sense, if that helps with anybody trying to figure out how this all went down. All the stuff in Lincoln, you move on. Okay. It's a good refresh for both sides. Is now Nebraska can work on their defense because they're going to, whether the DC was here or not, they're going to have a resetting of that defense in 25 with a lot of new faces that are going to have to get coached up and play well right away.
It doesn't always have to be a bad ending.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think it was a bad ending.
Yeah.
It just, you don't have as much power when you're a coordinator compared to when you're a head coach. I think the fear was from Nebraska, if he's a head coach, there's a lot of people that want to go with him.
Because they like him.
Yeah.
All right, wherever you go, I'm following.
All right. Coming up a little bit later, Jay Moore will join us. Coming up he'll stop by. We got him 30 minutes earlier. He's going to be on at 8:30. And then Brandon Vogel from Counter Read joins us at 9:40.
what do you call it? National Financial Agreement Signing Day, or
should we just call it National Letter of Intent Signing Day? It's still referred to that, but coaches pause and they go, well, they don't really sign a letter of intent. They sign a financial agreement. I guess a financial agreement to the university. Because look at, we had the college basketball signing period middle of last month. And I inquired about a local player. I go, did he sign? And like, well, we really don't have a signing. We don't have like it's not like the old days.
And you're like, that wasn't my question.
And then
is he in or not?
So at the table, when they're there with mom and dad and brother and sister, what are they signing? But Nebraska will sign at least 19 today. Doesn't look like they will be on the wrong end of any flips. But at about 8:15 this morning, there could be a lot of, Terrence Knighton drops, and he'd be a defensive guy talking about offensive guys. If Terrence Knighton drops a boom on social media, if Nebraska gets a Mills and a Terry at 8:15 this morning, people might lose their mind. They're like, pot roast is staying. But is he? All right. That is the lineup brought to you by the Rooferees of John Higgins. Weather Guard, big day of ball in town. KU and Creighton at 7:30 right here on the Zone.
I'm in a great mood. That's how you know it's a good day.
I know. Well,
even though I've been awake since 2:30.
Whoa.
I couldn't fall back asleep. It's one of those deals that you were talking about the other day.
Had to go to the bathroom?
Yep.
Okay.
And then,
but you can't fall right back asleep?
Most days, yes, but no.
There are times I get up in the middle of the night and I'm just groggy and into the bathroom. Light doesn't come on because I have a good sense of where to go.
Same.
And just, you hear the trickle stops and like back to bed.
Yeah. Most times that is me, but not today.
Muscle memory.
Did you do some doom scrolling on X?
Watch some YouTube highlights.
That's the fun thing at 3 a.m.
To doom scroll.
Is to do some doom scrolling.
Oh,
just go over on the For You tab.
Yeah. See what the night owls are up to.
What's that La Nina up to? What is it? Is it going to get cold again? Actually, it is later today. But
you want the next time you wake up in the middle of the night and you're on social media,
I'm not tweeting you at that time of night.
I don't. You can tweet me as well. There's a lot. I
know you.
I now know people's work schedule that I interact with, because there are some people that I think work like the overnights, or they work 3 to 11, and maybe at work they can't get on X, and then at like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. they respond to a series of tweets, and I'm like, they probably just got off work.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to have some fun at that time if you wake up and you can't sleep and you pick up your phone. Just any questions?
Mine's in the gutter, but I'm letting you cook.
The questions in the gutter? No, you just put any questions and let people just fire off questions
and
at
then
3
open
in the
up
morning.
your DMs and yeah.
I mean, you never know what you're going to get.
Bots on bots on bots.
They've cut down on the bots. You guys notice that? The bots have been
noticed.
The bots have been they've been squelched a little bit of late.
There's been less would you smash after a serious post. You're reading up on a tornado tearing apart a town, and then you have somebody asking smash or pass. I'm like, wait, you mean the building? I think the tornado did both.
God, this game sucks. Hey, sexy. Some random bot.
It's been 10 years since you've been gone. Hey there. Make you feel better. Going back to sleep.
The takeaway from this is I am following different people than you two. I don't get that stuff anymore.
What does the algorithm know?
Yeah. What does my For You page? I'll have to look at that. I'll let you know.
All right. You can always join the conversation. 402-951-1620. That is the 42-degree source by your mom's house hotline. In the Equitable Bank inbox, this is a big night for Doug. Doug's going to be like on one as KU and Creighton play downtown at the Chai. Stripe out, sold out.
Doug, you'd look good in crimson and blue. You could wear both colors.
The Kansas Jayhawks in town. Ryan Kalkbrenner with an injury that all of us men can relate to. Equitable Bank inbox, Gary at 1620thezone.com.
Jimmy at 1620thezone.com.
Or on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed at Gary Sharp 1620.
You can get us on Gary Sharp Show. I have it open, so if you tweet at that, I'm going to see it.
Yeah, but it's blocked. You like a private?
No. Well, my personal one is, which is J Chavez 3. But I have almost said the wrong thing. I have the Gary Sharp Show Twitter up. I always do when we're here. And so when you tweet at the show, you're tweeting at, I'm the one who sees it at first.
All right. Good enough.
Come on in.
All right. Off and running. Great way to start
Our
signing
DMs
day.
are open.
Huge signing day. This is a day of to celebrate if you are a young man that gets to pick your school. But there's plenty to talk about. 8:15 could be the witching hour for Nebraska football. There's some dudes in this class that we'll get into as well. Jay Moore and also Brandon Vogel. But Andrew, Nebraska, and Mike, stay right there. On a football day where there's a heavy dose of hoops. Great slate. Not only here in the city, but also around the country. It's a Gary Sharp Show with Jimmy and Peter on 1620 The Zone. I got a trivia question for you surrounding KU basketball because I was looking up some notes on DeJuan Harris. Do you know who has played the most games in the history of Kansas basketball?
Oh, I'm thinking because that COVID year has to be part of the factor now. I feel like this is a trick question.
No, it's actually recent. So DeJuan Harris tonight will play,
I was gonna say,
and it's 140. I'm just going to say in the 140s game, it's tied for second. But before the year's over, he'll be the all-time leader in games played at KU. The record holder right now is he played recently on a national championship team.
Christian Brown.
Peter, don't say Wilt.
Who else was on that championship team?
Ochai Abaji. David
I feel like
McCormick.
He was there for a while.
David McCormick might be the answer.
All right. Great guesses out there. You win absolutely nothing except the shame that you should put more respect on Mitch Lightfoot's name.
Oh, how could I forget Martini Room Mitch? Yes.
I should have thought that.
If you know,
we start the morning with Andrew. Andrew, good morning. Welcome to 1620 The Zone.
Jimmy.
Andrew.
You guys fight. I'll just sit back.
How can you be rooting for the Kansas Jayhawks?
I got a diploma and a crap ton of debt, and that's why.
Take that.
I think we're underestimating the power of the chai.
Okay. I'm
I
listening.
think Creighton's going to pull this off. And I think they may be playing bad now, but
they'll play one of their best games tonight, guarantee you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is a
as
night
they
that
should.
Their threes will finally hit the net. So
Bill alluded to that.
Very optimistic about tonight. I'll be there in my penny loafers and my sweater vest. I'll be excited watching the game. And I think Creighton comes away with a victory tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's KU's first true road game.
And it needs to feel like a road game.
It'll be packed in there. The three's got to fall.
And you guys got to quit changing the name on this show. I followed you through like 5 name changes now.
That is true.
You're killing me.
That is true. I can't make any I can't make any promises, but I think the next one will stick.
All right. Put it on the board. Creighton wins tonight.
All right.
Okay.
All right, Andrew.
If he said the opposite, I'd probably fall out of my chair and be sad at the same time. It's like, no, you can't quit on them. But I do think they'll play maybe their best game of the night. And when you're at home, those threes start falling. Every loose ball, especially early, you're going to get to, and you have to play through the emotion if you're the visiting team. Once you get through that and you're playing the game, now we just slug it out. But I do hope it is the loudest game of the season in there, including anything going forward. Just because it's fun. It's fun to be the bad guy.
Oh,
Al Pacino said it best. Make room for the bad guy. There's a bad guy coming through.
Just be curious on the will there have been more Nebraska fans in the Chai than KU fans will be in there tonight?
No.
Okay. It's a great matchup.
And that's nothing against Nebraska
It's
fans.
also probably a Wednesday. You know, it's 7:30, a little bit later. You got church, school, things like that. Nebraska was Friday night.
Yeah.
People forgotten that. I was on the 22nd of November.
Shout out to the guy just chugging beers in the stands.
But I do now. This is a challenge because I mean KU is an elite team and Creighton is trying to figure things out and overcome some flaws, and they got to hit shots. But what Andrew said, that building does help Creighton, especially when they're playing well and it's a tension convention or they get on a run.
Mm-hmm.
That building lifts them up. Mm-hmm. But KU has played in those before, and KU has a lot more depth this year. Like this game being played last year, Creighton's going to win this game. I don't care if it's at Allen Fieldhouse or here.
I agree. I think.
But
Creighton
this year, so self-learned last year, I mean, that was a painful year. But look at the depth they have this year. They played 7 games, and 5 of the 7 games they've had a different score. So they are deeper. But maybe tonight just is a good old big man matchup between 2 old guys that will never leave college, Hunter Dickinson and Ryan Kalkbrenner.
Speaking of Mitch Lightfoot, I think he's out of eligibility.
Is he a GA? I think I have seen him on the sidelines.
Yeah, I think he has a
I watched him
permanent
against,
job there.
I watched him against Furman the other day.
Lawrence, Kansas is a good place to live when you're young, especially if you play basketball there. I wouldn't know.
All right. Line's sitting at 4.5 for people that care. We care about the health and wellness of our next caller, Nebraska Ball Mike. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh,
Andrew?
serious voice.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, here's the deal. Doug ain't walking through the door. Ethan Ruggie ain't gonna save your ass. You want number one to come in here? You got one shot at this. This ain't Villanova.
No,
Good
this is a
luck.
blue blood.
Well,
Okay? Now here's the thing. Why do teams recruit quarterbacks in the same class if one of them's gonna leave?
In this case, I think you should get a quarterback every year, multiple quarterbacks. We're going to get into this a little bit later about Danny Kaelin leaving. Should he have come to Nebraska in the first place?
I don't think so.
But I think you should. Well, you know, it was a unique set of circumstances with Dylan's commitment at the time, and Danny then flipping back to Nebraska. He stuck with that commitment. But every year they should get a quarterback. I actually think this, Mike, that they're going to get who they hope is the heir apparent to Dylan, and that's Latif, who's going to sign the day, the quarterback from California.
Okay.
Who
Okay.
he's got legs. He's got a good arm and he's got legs. He's got better running ability than Dylan does, but he's their one guy in their class. I almost think that Nebraska also needs to go get a guy out of the portal at quarterback.
Okay.
All right.
Now, here's the other couple of things. James Williams. Who found you in the middle of nowhere backing you up at a community college? You think Tony White found you? Matt Rule found you. Nebraska found you. Why are you leaving? Okay? And Princewell, we're sorry. If you're going to play with your brother in Mississippi, we get it. That one hurts. As far as the others go, we get it. But those three hurt a lot.
Well, okay. So James Williams was more attached to Terrence Knighton. Now, that's could be an indication that Terrence Knighton is leaving.
Him, though? Who put him on film and found him?
Well, no, he came to basically a tryout, and he worked out, and they said, you've got measurables and metrics that are equal with NFL guys. We got to get you in front of Matt Rule. So
think somebody's going to do that in Tallahassee?
Well, there's no. I don't know that he's going to Tallahassee. He is attached emotionally because of just things that he's gone through in his life. Terrence Knighton has been like his father figure. That's the unfortunate thing of cutting down to 105 is that guys get attached to their position coach. Maybe they're not going to be here. They don't want to stay here as well. I would like to see him develop, but I'm not gonna lose sleep over James Williams leaving.
Okay.
Now,
right.
I'm also not going to lose sleep over Prince Will because I think Prince Will probably needs a change of scenery. Whatever happened that he couldn't get on the field consistently, and if that had more to do with what you have to do to prep yourself to play, then that's on him, and that's probably okay for him to learn and go somewhere for a fresh change, new voices in his ear.
Eligibility in Mississippi?
I think he has 1 year. Now he'll be because of his potential upside. He'll have a lot of suitors. I mean, he was a freshman All-American. He just couldn't back that up. What you're going to see here is guys get to get on the field sooner than later, and unfortunately, there's going to be some that are not ready to play, and they're going to be put into a situation and go, "That guy is a bust," and you're like, "No, just hang in there." But
just hang loose, blood.
But it's if you've been in the program in a college football program now in 2.5 years, and you're not a consistent contributor, then I think the new guy moves in and they find a new home for you because you're limited at 105.
It's just irritating because I remember Matt Rule mentioning the family recruiting both of them.
Yeah, and here we don't know, Mike, is this an unexpected or expected name into the portal? Like, we don't know behind the scenes of maybe he was not happy with the situation and, was wondering, hey, am I going to play more on a consistent basis? And they didn't want to, there was no guarantee. And so he puts his name in. Those are the things we don't know. It's the balance of what departures make sense, what shocked you the most, and is it expected or unexpected? Because there are guys that you get emotionally attached to. They're like, oh, man, I can't believe that guy's leaving. And then you find out Nebraska asked him to leave.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that's the case with James Williams.
105. I'm guessing we're at 140 right now.
If I'm doing the math right, they're 44 over right now, and I'm including the recruiting class today. But that's not all scholarship guys. That is an abundance of walk-on guys who you may not hear their name in the portal because they don't get a Hayes Fawcett tweet.
Are walk-ons going to be a thing anymore? Or are we done with that?
They will technically not be a thing, referred to as a walk-on, because all 105 are on a scholarship, and that's one of the bigger things that sucks about this. College football does so many great things, Mike. This is not one of them.
No, I think they screwed this up so bad.
Yeah, it's
I don't know
we'll see what the fallout is.
It, but I think they screwed it up so bad.
Well, you're headed that way. I don't think you can stop because people are adjusting as we speak. All right, Mike?
Where's the game tonight, Gary?
Creighton.
Who's got the game?
Creighton KU. Oh, you mean on TV?
Yes.
FS1. Kevin Kugler, Jim Jackson, Nick Baugh.
So the zone's covered everywhere.
Yes. All right, Mike.
Enjoy it, Creighton fans. You've been begging for this for decades. Here you go.
All right. That's Nebraska ball, Mike.
I think they will enjoy it. I think they'll have a good time.
Why would you like that?
Why would you not enjoy Creighton?
Yeah.
Creighton and KU are playing. It's a non-conference game. I got giddy last year when Alabama was here. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Now, one thing we have to do in college basketball, please, we got to shut off the injury valve.
Yeah.
There are a lot of injuries in college basketball. I mean, Kalkbrenner, again, I'm assuming that he is playing tonight, but he missed a game.
Saw what Nate Oates said yesterday.
Yeah. So Trelly,
that stinks.
Latrell Wrightsell Jr., whose dad played at Creighton, and great kid. Got to be around him a little bit this summer. He spent a lot of time in Omaha, hooping it up. But he balled out at Omaha Central. He went to the West Coast. He played himself into an opportunity. Goes to Alabama. Got into the rotation. Gets to the Final Four. This year he was a double-figure scorer. He was shooting well, and then he got hurt at the Players Era Festival out in Las Vegas. And that
legit makes me sad.
That sucks. Yesterday, that news came out that Trelly is out for the year with an Achilles injury. And if you saw it in real time, we become experts after Aaron Rodgers and Kobe on Achilles, what it looks like, or Kevin Durant. And you saw that and you're like, yeah, that's not going to be good. And then we got the news yesterday. All right. Quick update with Jimmy. Quick update with Peter is coming up. When we come back, we'll talk about the departures, because I think there is the ones that you go, okay, it makes sense. I would be curious on what shocks people the most. And then also curious, what's your feelings this time next week? Because then Nebraska probably goes shopping in the portal. Portal giveth, portal taketh away. Who will be going and coming today?
Nice.
I don't have
mirror.
I don't have another line in that ride.
Portal.
It's the Gary Sharp Show at 1620 The Zone.
Update time, Hump Day edition. New rankings, college football playoff, and people are angry, per usual. No one's ever happy when these come out. And ADs are tweeting at each other now, so that's a fun new wrinkle in all of this. Alabama currently slated to be in over Miami and Ole Miss. That's what really got people mad, except, of course, Alabama fans.
Anything to make Lane Kiffin upset and tweeting.
I love the bullet point style cases that the accounts are publicly making for their own teams. It's very funny.
I want a PowerPoint.
Boise and UNLV is essentially now going to be a win and get in game. Boise's slated right now in the top 4, but obviously if UNL wins, they'll be in over the Broncos. First round projections as of last night: Arizona State at Penn State, Ohio State at Tennessee, Bama and Notre Dame, and Indiana, Georgia. So obviously, we still have a week to play. Things will change.
And the Sun Devils are going to get rolled if that's the matchup.
Yeah, we'll see. NBA Cup group play finishing up last night. We have our quarterfinalists set. Thunder versus Mavericks, Rockets versus Warriors, Bucks versus Magic, and Knicks versus Hawks. Those will take place next Tuesday and Wednesday. Things got interesting at PBA last night for Nebraska women's basketball, but they pulled away late, 16-0 run to defeat Lindenwood by 21. And moving on to today, there's a lot of good basketball in addition to Creighton, Kansas tonight. Just after we finish up here, Creighton women underway at 10 a.m. in their first Big East game over on Zot.
10 a.m.?
Yep. I'm popping over there right after this to get
here?
on that.
No.
It's at Xavier.
Oh.
A little midweek 10 a.m.
Screaming
action.
kids game.
So the
Toilet flush.
So the first conference game is a kids game in Cincinnati. Yeah.
Enjoy the baby shark. Good Lord.
I mean, do it against
Lindenwood.
And yeah, do it against a non-con or a bye
strange
game
way
or
to start
something.
conference play. But then also UNO women late game tonight over on 1180, and Gary is on the call for the men tonight on Coil. I will be his board for that.
Montana State.
Tune in.
It's a good
Cats.
matchup.
Yeah.
Montana State has played Wisconsin and Northwestern tight.
Shout out to my Grizz. They were on TV last week
Mm-hmm.
in the football playoffs. So,
and then not sports related, but I did find this local news to be fun. The Maha Music Festival is coming back after a 1-year hiatus. It's returning in August at a new location on the riverfront.
you'll have to educate me what this is.
It's Omaha's
It's a music
only. Yeah,
festival.
Omaha's like one of the only, I think, 2 music festivals. I think there might be another one, but
Outlandia.
Outlandia, and that's the
is
one
done.
that they're going to like merge operations for one riverfront festival.
I believe that I have drank beer at Maha with Mr. Krenzer.
Oh, okay.
Is that so?
Yeah, the last Maha 2 years ago, because they didn't have it last summer, when it was in my neighborhood, which Stinson Park was fantastic for it. I get it. They had some interest by the Nodo area, and then it stayed at Stinson, and then they turned into a multi-day event, and then last year it sat it out, and now it's down on the riverfront, which that's where it originated. But I liked it in Stinson Park. Yeah,
It was fun
two
there.
years ago, I bumped into you, and we drank a beer.
I think I was there. I'm trying to remember who
How many
I was
times I've
with,
said those
but
same things?
Maybe it wasn't you, but someone that looked like you. Like
it very well could have
so-
been me. My memory is terrible.
it's probably not the music you listen to, Jimmy. But before Lizzo she was like starting to
on her
ramp up.
ascent.
Lizzo was the closing act.
Hey, that's a big
was
deal.
that 2021?
I think that was 21. I think it
Stibbs was still here because Stibbs was infatuated with her, and there were people that were concerned that he would end up on Omaha Scanner as someone who was stalking Lizzo. But she was the closing act. It was great.
Yeah.
And it was like, how is Lizzo playing Maha? But it was right as she was starting to become a big thing.
The coordinator.
Now she's a small thing.
Struggle with that.
She's like dropped a bunch of pounds.
Yeah. Shout out
really?
Ozempic.
All right.
Everyone's got Ozempic.
Do they?
I feel like everyone's
No.
I don't. I take a pill.
I mean, the real ones know when they saw Lainey Wilson. Yes.
If you
saw
I
her
did see that.
at the performing on Thanksgiving Day.
Loved her on Yellowstone.
But you can't say that There are a lot of people that are busting it right now, listening to us in the gym that don't want to put anything in their body, and they are losing weight.
There you go.
You can't just say
Those are my
you can't say
heroes.
everybody's on Ozempic.
There you
Seems
go.
like everybody is.
No,
I-
not
I-
everybody.
I will
I
never
hate to
do that.
generalize. I
I
hate
don't
to
like
generalize.
needles. So maybe when they make the home game, I might try it.
Now, for a guy that is, been on the bigger side, I'm like, come on, man, you've been hiding these drugs for 20 years from us all.
Yeah.
Insurance can cover them, but you can't say that. Okay, I want you to go up to somebody, and I want you to go, Ozempic or what you doing?
I have no room to talk.
And then they tell you,
My BMI is not good.
I'm impressed at your young age that you know that. You had a recent physical?
Not recent. That's probably part of the problem.
Get that? No.
No.
You
Keep
check
that
your-
blood pressure
No.
thing off me. I know it's high.
You check your BMI on a regular basis?
No, I just know it's terrible.
Working in radio
I
will
could
do
just
that
tell.
to you.
I could just tell. My sister is in grad school right now, and she had to test out blood pressure, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be off the charts bad. So she tested on me. It was actually pretty normal. A pleasant surprise.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting a good result.
Well, you're going to have a long, healthy life. That's my
Yeah.
prediction.
Well,
I think so too. You'll outlive us all.
First commitment is in Dawson Merritt. Great pickup for Nebraska out of Kansas City. Should be on the field early, and we'll have an opportunity. We can this week look at some of the departures in the front seven on Nebraska's defense and go, well, but if they need a new defensive line coach, Rob Dvorak, who is a really good coach, is going to need a monster year. And then the defensive coordinator, is going to have to do their work because Nebraska is going to be a little interesting in the front seven. I mean, you can't just go, hey, Riley Van Poppel and Keona Davis are going to lock it down. So there is a little bit of a depth that I look at guys that ran out of eligibility and guys that are leaving in the front seven, and I go, boy, Nebraska's going to need a big week next week. And between December 9th and the 28th when the portal is open. But Dawson Merritt coming in, Dawson Merritt is one of those guys. Don't even consider the red shirt. He's going to be in, get him on the field. And we probably won't speak much of red shirting when your roster is limited at 105. But there are some guys in this class that you don't even hesitate and you say, that guy's got to be on the field. When Nebraska opens up next year at Arrowhead against Cincinnati, he needs to be on the field. Whether he's playing regularly, he needs to be available to play. So he is in. Back to the playoff real quick. So, it's a TV show and it's a brand show. Isn't the SEC and the Big Ten getting exactly what they want?
Yeah.
Isn't it like a trade? Hey, we'll keep Alabama in, and then, you know what? We'll help out Ohio State. Ohio State and Alabama might be the most impactful brands going in college football. Because look, Ohio State lost to a 6-5 football team. Miami lost to a fairly good Syracuse team. One was at home, one was on the road. Not as much of a favorite, Miami at Syracuse compared to what Ohio State was against Michigan. And Miami fell further than Ohio State. I get it. And that's the advantage of being in the Big Ten, is that you are in one of the two mega conferences that get to make the rules up, so to speak.
This is how it's going to be.
But it just looks like they're making both happy that Alabama, for the second straight year, is going to find a way into the playoff. And people will be rooting, though. Like, what happens if Clemson beats SMU? Is SMU completely out?
I think so. Yeah.
Clemson is in.
Mm-hmm.
How many Alabama fans will show up to watch the ACC championship game?
Not that far of a drive.
No.
Yeah. Not like they have an SEC.
I'm sure South
championship.
Carolina fans would love that outcome.
So would the people in Charlotte. Are they still playing that in Charlotte?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So they'd
Good
like
old
that
Bank
too.
of America.
They'll have to tarp off a bunch of seats.
The other thing, you were mentioning the ADs going back and forth. So it was Jamie Pollard at Iowa State and the athletic director at SMU. You don't have uniformity across college football, so not everybody plays the same amount of conference games. But what I am fearful of, and I have advocated for this, and I even rubbed Troy Dannon's head when he told me this. So, Nebraska, Tennessee have a home and home coming up. It got pushed back. there was always the fear that it was going to get eliminated.
Please don't.
Nebraska has no interest in getting out of that game because where it falls and what the stadium project is, it really is a big point of when they go all in on the stadium project because they want a full house for Tennessee. And so Nebraska has no interest in getting out of that game, and I imagine Tennessee will play as well. But listening to Ward Manuel from Michigan and then seeing this tit for tat between SMU and Iowa State is our non-conference games, our non-conference sexy games might be in trouble because listening and looking at resumes, it just comes down to wins.
Yeah, you might as well play Mercer.
It's just wins. You know what?
And you've said this earlier in the season.
Well,
our great games.
And I think that's
why we celebrate in basketball. Kansas
Yeah.
and Creighton play tonight.
Yeah.
We need games.
But
like
in college
that.
football, if you're just win.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, get to 11-1. You're in the Big Ten or the SEC and you're 11-1 and you played an Indiana type schedule. Yeah.
You're good.
You're
We got
probably
you.
going to be good.
Mhm.
So what's the incentive in your 3 non-conference games to schedule like a good team? Now, though it's early, it's the first year. Maybe the committee readjusts. I don't trust the committee to pick out who is a real football team and who is a fraudulent football team. The other flaw that I think, and I think it's okay after 1 year to tweak the system until you move to 16, where I believe we are going.
Yeah, same.
Why? They made a mistake. The top 4 seeds actually should be the top 4 teams in college football.
It's a novel concept when you think about it. The top 4 teams should get a bye?
Because let me walk you through the scenario. So let's say Notre Dame and Alabama are 6 and 11. And the beauty of a mid-December game in South Bend. I would honestly think about going to that, to see a playoff game at Notre Dame Stadium in mid-December.
Just take the zone there and have work pay for it.
You are Notre Dame, Alabama. You could play SMU or Boise State. But if you are, look at like Oregon. Oregon could play Penn State or Tennessee in the next round. So Notre Dame and Boise State, Oregon, Penn State.
It doesn't make sense.
No. The top 4 seed should be the top 4
Yeah.
teams in college
That'll
football.
be one adjustment I think will come eventually.
Well, I'm sure that
Then again, common sense doesn't apply to a lot of these people, so I can't guarantee that.
it's a TV show.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a TV show with a committee that doesn't show a lot of consistency. And who knows what the conference championship game impact are. They're just a cash grab. But half of the field of 12 is sitting out this weekend. So they basically have a bye.
Yeah.
And do you trust that the committee, and if SMU wins this weekend, we probably won't have a lot of drama on Sunday when they reveal the first playoff bracket. But do you trust the committee that if you lose in your conference championship game, they will take grace on you?
If you're in the Big Ten and SEC, sure. Otherwise, no, you're screwed.
Now, Oregon, Penn State are in.
Yeah.
Texas and Georgia are in
Yeah.
regardless.
Also, will
But
they
then-
eliminate conference championship games? Because what purpose do they serve other than one of your
Money.
dudes gets? Yeah.
It's all about. It's just a cash grab.
Just add an extra conference game.
Now, you can say that. I say that for the power ones. We are about to have one of the most important group of 5 games that has ever been played. UNLV and Boise State is monstrous. Boise State does not win. That changes a lot of things.
Yeah.
That's one of the, if not the biggest group of 5 game that has been played.
If Vegas
But-
wins, Barry Odom with the quarterback quitting on them early
Yeah.
in the season.
But that means something. Iowa State, Arizona State. Big 12's getting 1 in.
Yeah.
So it's just basically swap you out. If Arizona State wins, they probably stay where they are. If Iowa State wins, they just replace Arizona State.
And Iowa State goes to Penn State. I'm like, well, it's balmy here. We're from Ames,
Iowa State in the playoff.
the world we live in.
But that's the thing that they wanted with the playoff, and I'm okay with it, is you're
Yep.
going to see some new teams. I mean, we're going to have Indiana. Indiana is in. They're guaranteed. Indiana is in the playoff.
Don't let us down.
SMU, who I like SMU. I think they're worthy. I think they look like a playoff team, but damn, you better beat Clemson. You don't beat Clemson, there's no guarantee.
They were ready for this era 40 years ago, so they're like, their time has arrived. Sherwood Blunt, you can come out of hiding.
But we get a couple of teams that are new that you don't see in the mix. That's what this was intended for.
And I'm excited. I'm excited to watch these games. The closer we get to them, I think, okay, all right, but that doesn't count. It's ball. I'm going to watch, even if you say you're not.
The other thing that I've brought up many times. So I think it's great that we're playing first round games on campus. And if you look at the bracket from last night, which may not change much if SMU wins, 3 of the 4 games are going to be played in the north, which we could have. We're going to have cold weather to begin with, but will we have a snow globe?
Yeah.
Again, if I'm a 1 through 4 seed and I've had a great year to earn that spot, why am I going to play a neutral site game?
Yeah.
Where you've taken the elements and the home field advantage out of the picture? Why don't I get a home game as well? Why don't we just reserve neutral site games for the semifinals and the final?
Agreed. If I'm Oregon, I want someone at Autzen. I want my fans to be able to watch them. I want my fans to scare them so that you beat them in advance. But now you're taking all that out of the equation. I don't like it.
Well, look at
you said earlier it'd be better to be a 5 seed than a 4 seed.
Well, okay, so let's go back to Notre Dame and Alabama, 6 and 11. Notre Dame gets a home game. Notre Dame is like a billionaire that doesn't pay taxes. That's what Notre Dame football and Notre Dame is. They're a billionaire that doesn't pay taxes.
About right.
They get a lot of advantages, but they never pay the taxes. They could get a home game. They will get a home. They're guaranteed that they're going to have a home game in South Bend. If you look at the bracket, they could go and play not to go play on the Smurf turf. They will go and play a neutral site game against either an SMU or Boise State. They don't have to go to Boise, Idaho. How ideal would that be?
Be great TV. It'd be the biggest day in the history of Boise.
You don't think that Dan Lanning, who is the cock of the walk and maybe a little bit cocky, wouldn't love to have somebody have to come to Eugene late in December?
Mm-hmm.
And you worked all season to get that, to host a playoff game instead of going to, and I don't know where the site.
Insert Bland Dome here.
I think they assign the sites after the results, right?
I think so.
Okay. But you would be going to, let's say, the Rose Bowl.
If you're lucky.
So it'd be a neutral site game. Here's the other thing that I would be curious if I'm a fan. So let's say I'm a fan of Oregon. And I kind of am. I love Dan Lanning.
Shout out Ducks.
What are you doing as a fan if you are at Oregon and knowing that you're going to have a couple of rounds of the playoffs, or at least you hope? But oh, by the way, your first year in the Big Ten, your team is playing at Lucas Oil on Saturday night on CBS against Penn State. Where are you going to spend your money?
Playoff later. You're going to roll the dice. But I sure would have loved to have had a game at home.
I mean, is it going to be? It's not going to be packed on for the Big Ten championship game, right?
There'll be a nice number of Penn State fans, but I don't expect it to be packed.
Well, Ohio State fans, where you could drive, drive, place would be packed.
Yeah,
scarlet and gray.
Mm-hmm.
But now you have Penn State, which of course Indianapolis is closer to State College, but still it's Oregon. You're clear across the country. As a fan, you have to figure out where am I going to spend my money. I would love to go to the championship game, but there's no guarantee. I can't go to the Big Ten because I have no money. I want to go to that first playoff game. But what if that first playoff game includes a flight and all? Just things as I was watching last night.
Get a big TV.
I thought about.
You don't have one.
All right, 22 past the hour. Coming up at 8:15 this morning, Michael Terry and Cortez Mills will announce where they are going to school. Will it be Nebraska? We will try and check in, especially on Cortez Mills, on what he is going to do. Jay Moore stops by at 8:30, and then Brandon Vogel coming up at 9:40. Let's talk some Hogo. Hogo had a good day yesterday, or did he have a good day yesterday?
I think he has a good day every day.
And what is to come with Nebraska's new offensive coordinator and the significance of a 2-year deal? We'll get into that when we come back. It's the Gary Sharp Show. There's Peter, Jimmy, and yours truly on 1620 The Zone.
Join the VIP club. Sign up for 1620 the email right now. You'll be the first to know all the exciting content that's happening on 1620 The Zone, including sports news, contests, promotions, news shows, everything you want to know. Sign up today, 1620thezone.com.
Exclusive. I guess this is, exclusive not for us. Pop-Tarts has announced that the Frosted Cinnamon Roll will serve as the third mascot of this year's Pop-Tarts Bowl.
I knew it. I called it.
What were the options?
Just the regs.
Yeah.
Strawberry and blueberry.
Yeah.
But now the
Fun
Frosted
addition.
Cinnamon Roll.
It's really the only bowl.
Oh, and then the winning team chooses one of the three to
The edible
consume.
mascot. Yes.
I see.
I was looking at the extended forecast for New York City, technically the Bronx, on
Balmy.
Saturday, the 28th of December,
Your Bob Shepherd's voice.
specifically at noon. The average high in the Bronx on Saturday, December 28th,
38.
39. Average low, 25.
Honestly, could be worse.
As the Pinstripe Bowl will
Trust me, I've
is
been
the
to Ames
front
many
runner
times in the winter.
for Nebraska and Boston College.
Ooh, Doug Flutie, let's go. Tom Coughlin.
The Pinstripe Bowl, so 4 teams from the Big Ten are going to be in the playoff, and then you start the pecking order. The Pinstripe Bowl technically is the 5th team in the Big Ten. They get their pick, I think, of the ACC team, because they either get the 5th, 6th, or 7th team out of the ACC. But it's starting to sound like the opponent will be Boston College.
So I'm trying to think that extended forecast. Yeah, I meant to check that. It's going to be, I predicted it's going to be 34 degrees that day.
Okay, so a couple
Under partly cloudy skies.
What was your prediction?
34.
Okay.
Partly cloudy, 10 mile an hour wind. Blowing out to left field.
I mean, it seems like every game at the Pinstripe Bowl is, like mid 30s.
Yeah.
Now, when didn't Iowa and Boston College play there, and the field was, so the temperatures were in the 20s, and the wind chill was even worse, and the field was not in great shape.
And there was one Pinstripe Bowl where I remember the refs were in short sleeves, so I think it was like 60. So hope for that, but don't bank on it.
That's where we're trending, is that Nebraska on Sunday will be officially into the Pinstripe Bowl on December 28th on ABC at 11 a.m. kickoff.
And retrace Kevin McAllister's steps all through New York City.
Tonight, Kansas and Creighton, a banger of a college basketball game in town. You'll hear it right here on The Zone. Kansas has won 24 straight games in the month of December.
I believe it. And I'm trying to think the last time they lost in the month of December. See, I've been at some losses in December. Arizona State, I remember, was a December game, and Remy Martin, but then KU went and bought him and he helped them to a championship.
He did what now?
They went and bought him.
Okay.
They had a payroll to meet.
He turned out to be a key player for a national championship team.
Playoff performer.
So we've talked a lot about one of the particular KU-Creighton matchups during COVID, and Bill Self talked about it yesterday. The game that KU won 73-72. There is the more recent game that it's a little bit painful because Kalkbrenner was injured and did not play down in Fort Worth at Dickies Arena. But the second round game where Creighton played unbelievable game.
To this day, I think if Kalkbrenner is healthy and playing that game, I think Creighton wins. And I know that's a championship team, but I liked that Creighton team, and I didn't like that matchup for Kansas with a healthy Blue Jays team.
KU was third in the country, and Creighton without Kalkbrenner was supposed to be just decimated. By the way, high knees worked that game, if you're wondering. KU was up 1 at halftime, and everybody was freaking out because Creighton was unbeaten, and Kansas was number 3. Creighton was unranked. But that was the most recent game. Ironically, Ryan Kalkbrenner did not play in that game. So Kalkbrenner did play in the game, the COVID game, down at Allen Fieldhouse when he was wearing number 32, played 9 minutes in that game.
Damn, I forgot that.
He had to go up against David McCormack.
The championship hero, after he had been a whipping boy for the fans for so long, he strutted his stuff right out of the Superdome with a trophy.
But people don't mention. I know it's a loss.
Creighton fans
What?
took over that building.
Dickies Arena.
Oh no! You're talking about that game. The game in Allen, the friends and family game.
There were a lot of
Creighton fans.
Well, there were a lot of Creighton fans at Dickies Arena.
Yeah.
That was a hell of a game. I was in Des Moines watching that game at actually a KU bar.
Oh, I was in a hotel room in Palo Alto.
Uh-huh.
But we were doing our part of the pregame show from my hotel room. Yeah, the magic of technology. We hooked David Lawrence up in my hotel room. We had a case of Miller Lite in the fridge, and he did his part of the show, and they did their part of the show in Fort Worth. It was hilarious. But yes, I remember that game because that was, of any of the, not counting the championship game, tension convention games, that Creighton game was probably it. Because there's always that one game on the run. And I even said, oh, that's it. Because I would watch Creighton, always enjoy watching them, think they're a tough team. And once Kalkbrenner was hurt, well, I mean, they caught all the breaks. Kansas played a lot of lower seeds, and then you get Carolina in the championship game instead of Duke, and then the floor moves and the ankle rolls for Baycott, and it's just, when it's your time, it's your time. But that's a good call in that game. That was a
freshman Art Kaluma game. We're like, oh my God, what could be? Yeah. Also, because Creighton came out and played, everybody's like, Kalkbrenner's not playing, they're screwed. Yeah. And they came out and they hit shots right away, and they were up like first media timeout. I think they were up like 13-7. Very underrated player, Ryan Hawkins, in his brief time at Creighton. Very underrated. Getting him from Northwest Missouri State and what he came in and did. All right. Coming up next hour, about an hour away, is Jay Moore. And then also Brandon Vogel will stop by again. 8:15 is the witching hour. Michael Terry, I think it's down to Nebraska and Texas.
Oh, them again.
And Cortez Mills, who it's down to Nebraska, and then there's probably Oklahoma.
Them again.
Yes, that's
Those
coming up
days.
at 8:15. Nebraska Ball Mike called in earlier and asked about Danny Kaelin. And the quarterback position will be very interesting moving forward, because this Heinrich Harburg, will he be exclusive a quarterback now that they've had time to see what he can do? Will he be a quarterback / hybrid guy? What does he want to do? Maybe he wants to be a starting quarterback in college football. Then you have Latif, who is going to sign today, who I think is the heir apparent. He's got the arm, he's got the legs, he's quicker than Dylan.
People say he really is a dude. So,
but your room's going to be smaller. You're not going to have 5 walk-ons. You're not going to have Gramstad there. Your quarterback room is going to be small. And that's the Holgerson thing to figure out. But the question comes up, and I think we all got to know him because it seemed like he was a starting quarterback at Bellevue West for 16 years. But, Danny Kaelin is, first and foremost, really good young man who kind of got put in an odd situation on, is he coming to Nebraska? Is he going somewhere else? Dylan's coming here. I committed to Missouri, and now I've decommitted and GBR. And wait a minute, I'm not going to be the only quarterback in this class. I got Michigan State that wants me to come here. All of this confusion, and he decides to stick with his commitment to Nebraska. And then yesterday, he put his name in the portal. Surprised? Surprised or not surprised? If you know that you have to whittle your roster down, you have a guy that played the entire year as the starter, and you want to play because your clock is ticking.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you have to. It was a business decision. It wasn't personal. He'll always probably in his heart be GBR because he's from here. He grew up. But it's one of those, and you said yesterday about and you've said today, the 105 rule. There are going to be some where you're like, okay, I get that. There'll be some like, okay, good. There'll be some who, and then there'll be some, oh, no, not him. But that's where we're at. That's everybody. That's what's going to make the portal interesting when it opens, because there are going to be a lot of great players in it, not because they're bad fits, because they're bad kids. It's because everyone had to cut down numbers. So it didn't surprise me. I hope he lands somewhere great and goes and, like you says, balls out, and everyone can celebrate him in Omaha because he's one of yours.
Miller Moss is probably right now the top quarterback in the portal, which he's attached to Iowa, which I don't know if he might want to check. It's been about 9 years since Iowa had competent quarterback play.
Must be the next
but the Chubba Purdy's of the world, who Chubba, I think Chubba would be, Chubba's stopping by every school in America. So you have
Just like the book fair.
you don't have the Miller Moss. Not everybody's a Miller Moss that's going into the portal, but there are quite a few intriguing quarterbacks. But there's going to be an abundance of Chubba Purdy, Danny Kalen type guys that are not frontline guys. And maybe it's not the greatest comparison because Chubba's actually started some, Power 4 football, but they're not, like you have to tier the quarterbacks. And I would think that Danny would have some interest, but is that interest from past recruiting connections, or is it interest from, let's say, straight up Interstate 29, playing at South Dakota State? They're going to lose. They're going to lose a championship quarterback who has been there for a while. Championship program. Maybe you go there, and there's always a chance to go somewhere else. I think there'll be interest.
Think the Bison will get in on that?
Well, he's a local kid, so those coaches know of him.
Mm-hmm.
But what about a Group of 5 school that needs a quarterback that is thinking, okay, I remember him in high school. I see high school film. You don't have any film outside of the spring game on him because he never got into a game. He wouldn't be your frontline guy, but he would be a complement. Like, let's say you have a older guy in your quarterback room, but what is his intent? Does he want to play next year? And then also we're going to find out, and I think this is true, is you saw this even in the spring game and then mentions from people that were around him during this entire season, during practice, is he's a different quarterback. He's bigger, so he's stronger. The arm is stronger. The decision-making on, because of my arm, I just can't throw it into a tight window. I got to make the right decision. I think those all grew in his development. But you're kind of taking a swing going, man, we're just hoping that Glenn Thomas developed him, and here we go. We have an opportunity that he can play. But he pretty damn loyal to stick with coming to Nebraska and then knowing the situation that you're not going to be the guy. And I think, I said Harburg. I would be curious on Harburg. Like, what does Harburg want as his role? I hope he would say, I want to be the quarterback in Nebraska. I want to be quarterback 1. I want to be back where I was 2 years ago. Or does he, and if that's the case, there's something in front of him who we've seen that's not being moved unless there's an injury. And there was no injuries this year.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I go back to Danny Kalen, and I keep thinking about, okay, what's going to be the play for him there? Because you said there's no tape on him this year, but doing a lot of the legwork, and there's something to be said about the character of the kid staying there this year. But then people wonder, well, then why is he leaving this year? And we go back to, because those are the new rules. So this is completely understandable, and there was no right or wrong answer here. So I'm very interested to see where he goes, and those are some great ideas. And plus any other schools that you haven't mentioned yet that, hey, this is a good kid. You want him in your program.
I think Nebraska needs a portal quarterback. What tier of that quarterback?
Would it be something like what they did last year, getting Bramstead? I mean, I know that was
I think they need a guy that has been either a backup at a Power 4 in that kind of range. I think Nebraska needs a portal quarterback. Because right now, if you take out Kalen and you insert Latif, you have 3 quarterbacks.
You need more than that.
Well,
that's just that,
and you also probably need a commitment. It's the odd part of the portal is you have to recruit your own roster. Is anybody else with me on this? That Dana Holgerson gave a commitment to Nebraska of 2 years. Wouldn't it be nice for his quarterback to publicly, social media post, interview, just say, yes, I'm going to be here as well.
Come join me and Dana for the next 2 years. Wait, what?
I mean, and that may be behind the scenes, but I think it would be nice to have that publicly. And that's the part of the portal that sucks is I thought he was coming back. I thought Barney was coming back. Barney kind of indirectly gave you, yeah, I'm back. I love this. But I think it would probably be assuring to fans if, your current quarterback was like, man, I'm excited that Dana has signed his deal. I'm all in, GBR, here we go. Whether you think that there may be some dabbling or not, it's just nice to have that commitment from your quarterback because his OC gave a commitment signing a 2-year deal where he has given the keys to everything that is offense and locks everybody else out of that room, and it's just Dana's offense.
And if you're in the portal and you're looking for a place to go, suddenly you see that, be like, I want to play for him. Like we were saying earlier, if you're a receiver, Dana has gotten dudes in the league. I want to go learn under him.
All right, quick break. We'll come back. Lance, stay right there. We'll get to some calls on this and much more. Coming up in the next hour, Jay Moore stops by. But on signing day, we pay attention at 8:15, 2 wide receivers that have Nebraska in their final that would both be on the field when Nebraska begins the 2025 season. Brandon Vogel as well, all part of the Gary Sharp Show on a hump day on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in the Gary Sharp Show. To Lance we go on the 42 Degree The Source hotline. Good morning, Lance.
Hey, Gary. How's it going, bud?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Can't wait to watch Creighton lose tonight and, let them finish their march to a one game over 500 non-con.
Wait a minute. Lance.
Excited about that.
Lance. Nebraska fans need Creighton to win.
I think we'll be okay.
All right.
I'm feeling pretty good. So,
wear red tonight,
actually,
Lance.
Yes, and yep, absolutely. Danny Kalen, I think good for Danny. I think he came in here. It was a weird recruitment at the end there, and he came here. And I'm fairly certain nowadays a lot of coaches let kids show practice film.
Yep.
So I'm hoping when Danny was working with lower units, he put some good stuff on film. I think he made the right decision. He could maybe get a Power 4 offer out of this where he's got a cleaner look to a starting job in the next, 2 years. And I'm of the opinion that you really don't need more than 3 quarterbacks on your roster going into this new version of college football where, I'm not going to really refer to them anymore as student athletes or kids. $20 million roster is a $200,000 a year job. I don't like the 105. I think it should have been closer to 120.
Agree.
Because 25 scholarships a year in 5 years is 125 kids. So what we're going to see now is a lot more turnover of players, even players we think might have potential. I don't think there's been a name mentioned yet that I think is not replaceable. Prince Will had his stuff within the program going on, and James has all the physical tools, but I think there's some stuff there that kind of maybe held him back as well. So I'm looking for a clean start, but it's a new era of college football, and I think it's going to take a few years for us to reframe how we talk about it.
Yeah, I agree. All of that. But I want to go back. You think 3 is the number in a quarterback room? Gosh, if your number one guy goes down and he's out for a while, it's not like you can have an emergency quarterback. Then you'd be down to your starter, your new starter, your quarterback 2, and then his backup. Yeah,
I think, you could you could argue 4, but I think if you're Nebraska, you have Raiola, who I'm going to assume, that there are going to be guys that you're going to give up whatever you got to get up to keep. So he's here probably for 2 more years. And then I have a guy like Bramstad as a backup who I think is serviceable for a few games. And then you have a guy like Latif who's a freshman. So, yeah, I think if you go down 2 quarterbacks, that whoever that third guy is probably going to be a young kid, a guy that you're not going to be able to rely on. I think, I really do think that as this goes on, we're going to really, really lean heavily on some of these lower division schools to produce some of these backups. And I think, we're going to see that moving forward, where if you don't make it your first year, you may go to a school for your second year, and then your third and fourth year, you're maybe back at a place like Nebraska. And I think there isn't going to be a lot of time for guys like that have thrived in Nebraska. Look at Bullock at linebacker. I think that's a dying breed of college football players.
Unfortunately. Yep. You're on to that. Lance, thanks for the phone call. Have a great day.
You too, bud.
I think Nebraska because Latif is in today. Nebraska needs a portal quarterback. What tier they chase? That's whatever they can get. They're probably not going to be attractive to a top tier portal quarterback, but I think they need a solid. I've started at a Power 4 school, even as a backup, or I used to be the starter. Like Wegman of Texas A&M went into the portal yesterday. He got beat out. And I'm just using him as an example. They have to have competition in the quarterback room. Mm-hmm. Like I really like Latif, but he's not walking in here and unseating Raiola.
It makes everyone better.
Dylan needs competition, but I also think Nebraska needs protection in case somebody is like, you know what? I just don't see a path, and all of a sudden you're looking for a quarterback too. I would like to see Nebraska get into the portal business with a quarterback this year and add 2 quarterbacks, because 4 4 would be a number in a quarterback room that I'd be comfortable with. Remember, Raiola starting every game was the first time since Tanner Lee. Now, the offense is different. You're not running the quarterback and putting him in harm's way, but still, not an overabundance of schools that their quarterback started every game. And that happened this year. All right, we got to take a break. Random Mike, stay there. We'll get you on the other side. Again, coming up at 8:15, Michael Terry and Cortez Mills are set to announce where they're going to school. Those are the two big ones that Nebraska is looking at that are potential flips. And so far, no surprises of commitments that are coming in for Nebraska. So we'll do all that coming up the next hour. And Jay Moore will stop by as well on 1620 The Zone. was looking at not only the 2 commitments that Nebraska is trying to see if they flipped coming up here in this hour. This is like a big hour around college football. There's some major announcements that are going to happen in the 8 o'clock hour. The witching hour of National Letter of Intent Signing Day is upon us, boys and girls.
Wake up.
And welcome back
Wins
in.
become losses, losses become wins on the recruiting trail.
Yes. Jay Moore coming up bottom of the hour. We have everything up. We're ready to monitor those 2 decisions, which are simultaneously.
Your day at the
happen at
grocery
8:15.
store yesterday, by the way, Sharpie, did you succeed in not hearing your song?
I did not.
All right.
I even turned the channel this morning because they were going to talk about something Christmas-ish. And I was like, nope, I've made it to December 4th without hearing Last Christmas by Wham. Let's hear from Random Mike. Thanks for holding through the top of the hour. Good morning, my friend.
Hey, Gary, I've been thinking of something you have been saying the last couple of years before Dylan came. We need a quarterback. And when you said that, what exactly were you referring to? What about a quarterback? Why were you saying it that way? We need a quarterback.
You mean a portal quarterback, what he was saying?
No, you've just been saying we need a quarterback. We haven't had a real quarterback the last number of years.
Not an athlete playing quarterback, but a quarterback playing quarterback, like they got in Dylan.
Yeah, and more the notion of, hey, just get it to the open guy. Find the open guy and get it to him. Is that a fair statement?
Just the ability to play pitch and catch would go a long way.
Right. And, what struck me was when Dylan earlier in the year, and his history was, that's what he is. He gets it to the open guy. And it just struck me that the passes he was making until that one play in Illinois, against Illinois, was he could make every pass, and he got it to the open guy in a way that it was really catchable, and it was a beautiful thing to see.
Mm-hmm.
But then, during that stretch where it was the bad Dylan, there were open guys that, whether he opened for a touchdown, and that happened on numerous occasions, and just get it to the guy that's open that can make the best play. And even in that Iowa game, there were a number of plays where guys were open for good games, even touchdowns, that he didn't get it to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did that concern you? That
so
Dylan?
So they need to have him be more than just fine. The consistency was not where I'd like it. I get that he's a young quarterback and people had film on him, but I think when we go back and look at this season, Mike, when it comes to Dylan, did Dylan do it to himself? The throw, because look at what transpired. And even when Holgorsen got here. Now, when Holgorsen got here, they got the ball out of his hand a little bit more. They ran more stuff that appealed to him. But there were throws that had to be made, but he looked different. His vibe was different. His vibe looked like the beginning of the year. I'm wondering if you sat Dylan down
in that Wisconsin game.
Yeah, yes. If you sat Dylan down and you said, let's go through your season. I want to go through your season up to the miss to Lindenmeyer in the end zone against Illinois to the Wisconsin game. What happened in between there? And is he going to say, you know what? I got in my head about the throw. Then there was the turnover talk. Don't make mistakes. You can't be wheeling and dealing because, man, it's going to come back to hurt us. Because after the miss against Lindenmeyer, and then nobody decided to block for him in overtime, and he got crushed, and I'm surprised he didn't get killed. He was really not the same because he was, I think in his head, going for the much harder throw than the easier throw. And if you go back to that play against Illinois, there was an easier throw to Borkature underneath that could have easily been completed, and it's a first down. He went for the harder one, and it was a miss. And I'm wondering if, as things went on and teams had film on him and they schemed against him, if it was more of a head game than anything, and he was thinking way too much. Holgorsen comes in, because of experience with quarterbacks, says, man, I'm going to clear the palate, and we're just going to work on these certain things that you do well. And you saw the result of less thinking, less things in my head. Let's just go out and ball. And oh, by the way, I'm going to design a route tree where I got wide receivers running all over the place. Then it's on you to make a connection.
Did Kalen get into why he made the decision now?
No, I don't. And Danny hasn't said anything publicly. I think he just wants to play. I think
Absolutely.
I think it says a lot about him, and then I think it also says a lot about Nebraska, and in particular Matt Rule. Danny, very loyal,
And
very loyal.
I have so much admiration. I have so much admiration for Kalen.
I know you do.
And in fact, yeah. And look, if you look at the Heisman winners going back the last 15, 20 years, it almost seems like a majority of them who won the Heisman were quarterbacks that transferred.
Yeah.
And who can blame him? I mean, should he go 3 years without playing?
No
matter who the guy in front of him is.
I think you almost out of every quarterback, whether he's your starter or not, you need a 2-year commitment. And you're like, you know what? Just give me 2 years. I think Danny was loyal to Nebraska, and Nebraska was loyal to him. They took care of him. And I think Matt Rule will help him find a spot because there was a two-way street of loyalty of, Danny, you didn't have to do this to commit to Nebraska, knowing that Dylan was here, stick with it, come here, develop. We're going to take care of you while you're here for your loyalty, and then we'll see what happens on the field. But if you decide to leave, we get it. We understand. You were good to us. We're going to be good to you.
Oh, absolutely. And we wish him nothing but the best. But have you guys heard anything about what they think of Gramstead as a guy that really can help them if they need to use him? I mean, like, is he showing stuff? Because he's a really impressive guy.
Yeah, I don't think you want to get into that situation if you have to play a game where things are on the line.
Does Nash have any more possible eligibility, or is he done?
No, he's done.
Okay.
Never hurts to ask.
Yeah. Mike, thanks for the phone call. All right. I think Nebraska needs a portal quarterback this year. They got a freshman quarterback. I believe that Latif is enrolling early.
Most do now.
I'm not certain on that. But as of right now, you have 3 technically scholarship quarterbacks with Latif joining. And one of them is a half and half guy. And I don't know what Harburg wants to do. Like, does he want to be a full-time quarterback where he's not just, hey, you might be going on this play. You might go in on this play. You just got to be ready. And you're going to go in for one. You're going to come out.
Here, stand by me.
I mean, was there enough this year that he said, nah, you know what? This role, I want to be the guy and find a place to go be a guy. Whatever they do with quarterback is they have to protect themselves. I know that Dylan is your guy, but Nebraska can't have their program stunted by decisions with Dylan. They have to help themselves. And even a portal quarterback, because they need competition. They need competition.
Yeah, you want Dylan to grow as a player. Competition's a big part of that.
And that's why I think a mid-range portal quarterback who is an older guy that has the understanding, if you come here, hey, we took care of a freshman who redshirted with the NIL. We'll do the same for you. You get it. Can you be a little bit of a mentor? Can you be a competitor? Can you be a guy if he goes down and Harburg goes down, you can step onto the field right away?
So you're Joe Flacco.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Joe Flacco's had a nice little career.
That's for you, Peter.
This year he has brought me nothing but pain.
Maybe you got Anthony Richardson. You're fine.
Play Jason Bean, you might win some games. It's been statistically proven.
Hey, I'm telling you.
Your head coach saved your season on Sunday.
And you rage tweeting, maybe it works sometimes because I got so annoyed. I don't rage tweet often, but I was like, I'm done with this season. And then not even 10 minutes later, they won the game. I thought they were dead in the water.
That was like the Charlie Weiss era at Kansas. There was a lot of rage tweeting, which was awkward because I was media then. Anyway.
You think college quarterbacks, it's a 2-year deal? Like, you don't sign a contract,
right?
But a 2-year deal. For example, let's use Latif. He's going to join Nebraska. Like his legs, like his arm. I mean, that's going to turn out to be a good pickup for Nebraska. But he also knows the situation that you have a true freshman that started every game and is the guy. you would possibly redshirt next year. So
Saying if you're the portal quarterback, you would.
Yeah, that
Okay.
Nebraska, I think Nebraska need, and maybe they're going to be forced with the 105 to readjust redshirt decisions. And maybe you don't even talk about redshirting guys anymore, except if they're like offensive linemen. Because I think if you had to revisit some of the decisions that were made about redshirting this year, you would say, at the end of the day, maybe we should have gotten him on the field and not worried about keeping him to 4. But a 2-year deal for a quarterback. So, again, using Latif as an example, let's say he comes here next year. Nebraska has 3 quarterbacks in front of him. You don't have to play him, but then he sticks around. So then he's a redshirt freshman in Dillon's last year, and he is the backup quarterback. And then knowing that the next year he is going to be the man. Now, that would be at least a 2-year commitment, where the 3rd year, if you know you're going to be the man, you're probably not going to take off.
Yeah. But it's a risk.
It is.
For everybody. And that's what this 105 is going to do.
All right, we'll take a quick break here. Again, when we come back, because we're going to try and hit this as they decide. Cortez Mills and Michael Terry are set to announce where they're going to go to school here in the next about 10 to 15 minutes. So we are going to carry that. Those are 2 guys, if you've not been following, that Nebraska is hoping to flip. Cortez Mills, 4-star wide receiver. Oklahoma and Nebraska. Nebraska has done a lot of stuff. Feel like that's a flip for Nebraska. Michael Terry, it's Nebraska and Texas for the 5-star, who would immediately be the top player in this class. So that's coming up before we get to Jay Moore in the hour as well on 1620 The Zone.
Brother. Didn't know that was in the rotation.
The song never gets old.
What you gonna do, brother?
Those were the days.
Yeah, and then things happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Things happen
Lot-
as
lot of
they
bad
tend to
things.
do, and that's that.
Here is Jim. Jim, thanks for the phone call on the 42 Degree The Source hotline. Good morning.
What's up, brother? Hey, when random Mike calls in, I think he's only allowed to voice his opinion on the radio because he can't do it at home. But that's another discussion. Hey, out of the transfer portal,
Mm-hmm.
these guys need to learn maybe from Chase Daniel, the Missouri quarterback, when he made it to the NFL. Everybody's not going to be playing. There's only 11 people on the field. Now, Gary, can I ask you this? With
Yeah.
these NIL deals, will they pay a second or third string player to just sit on the bench in case someone gets hurt? Is that a thing right now?
Well, Danny Kaelin got paid.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
Now he's leaving, and he might not play anywhere.
No, he'll play somewhere. He's a weird situation because of the timing of his commitment, and then all of a sudden Dylan comes into play. And let's be honest, we kind of thought that maybe Dylan would get dinged and he'd miss a couple of games, and it's unfortunate for Danny that he didn't even get on the field in a game. But that's on Nebraska because there was really no opportunities later in the year. Jim, thanks for the phone call. Nothing yet. Boy, Baylor is off to a good morning. Dave Aranda.
And not JB. I'm sure he's fine, but
yes. So Dave Aranda was, he was the guy. I went to an Iowa State Baylor game.
to scout. I remember that.
I got a sideline pass to stand by the Baylor sideline during that game, and they won in Ames because I'm thinking Dave Aranda actually might be like a candidate to be the head coach at Nebraska.
I remember that day.
And Nebraska actually ended up hiring a Baylor head coach.
And not Grant Teff.
And then,
rest in peace.
Baylor started to slip, and he was on the hot seat last year, turned it around. They really turned things around this year. And judging, I don't know enough about the recruiting class, but judging by things that are coming across my timeline, they're having a good day.
Their offense is good. Now.
Hit some music here. We have the first of the two announcements.
Ooh.
That Nebraska's looking to flip here.
Should we get a drum roll?
Maybe.
Let me
The breaking news thing, is that up there?
Oh yeah.
We need the ESPN draft ping thing, but I still like the idea that when a baby is born in a hospital, they should just play that over the intercom.
God, there is an ad for everything now. How are you gonna put an ad?
Hold
on
on, you're killing my vibe. I'm just gonna do this.
All right, here we go.
All right. Michael Terry has committed to Texas.
Oh.
So the number one athlete, 24th ranked player in the country. Now that's the one that I had less faith in because I think, Nebraska recruited him aggressively, but I thought during the process, as he kept Nebraska and Oregon in the mix, it was to get more NIL money from Texas. And Texas is Steve Sarkisian, they are loading up. So that is 2 5-star wide receivers that Texas has added to their class. So Michael Terry has committed to Texas. Cortez Mills, this looks like from the still shots I'm seeing, this looks like this is not moving very fast in his decision.
It is early, though. Kids don't like to be up that early.
Looking at Nebraska's guys that are committing and Nebraska's tweeting out, there's no surprises. Nebraska, because Matt Rule speaks at 1. Looks like almost all of Nebraska's class is in already.
You see that a lot now. A lot of these things are wrapped up by 8:30, 9 o'clock anywhere, and then the coaches meet with the media a few hours later. But yeah, not too much suspense most of the time. I guess this was the suspense. Now we just wait.
All right. Let's do this because I don't think Cortez Mills is going to announce here in the next 5 minutes.
I bet Connor and Josh got to him.
Well,
10:05.
He's going to disappoint a lot of people here because it looks like there's a lot of people here for to watch him make his announcement. We got Jay Moore coming up here within the hour, and more thoughts on which of the guys in this class need to be on the field guys almost immediately. Again, Michael Terry, not a surprise, committed to Texas. Nebraska got in the mix, but Texas paid a lot of money to keep a kid close to home. It's the Gary Sharp Show with Jimmy and Peter in today on 1620 The Zone. All right, we wait. Michael Terry's going to Texas. Cortez Mills is taking forever. So that means Jay Moore gets the stage. We welcome in the Pride of Big Red wrap up. Good show last night. A lot of good conversation with Damon Jay, Michael, Sean Callahan as well. Tom Chattel stopped by. Jay stops by now. Good morning.
Jay is not here.
Oh, I thought we had Jay.
No.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate
That's not
that.
like him, but good morning to Jay anyway. He'll be here.
I thought he popped in briefly, but I do not see him now. Hello,
I'm just
Jay.
curious where he's
Hello.
going to be today. Yes, last week was Carr because he was on his way to Lincoln.
I believe he will be in his office.
Okay. He'll be here eventually. While we do that, I'll tell you right now, because we're doing this week. And by the way, Saturday 56. 1620 The Zone is proud to team with the United States Marine Corps and Toys for
there he
Tots
is.
for Stuff the Truck 2024, December 6th and 7th. Stop by 1620 The Zone studio parking lot for Stuff the Truck with new unwrapped toys for area children. All donations support Toys for Tots. Can't make it to the event? Donations can be dropped off here, 50th and Dodge, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 through Tuesday, December 10th. Sponsored by Woodhouse Chevy and Molina Healthcare of Nebraska. More details online, 1620thezone.com/stuff the truck. Going to be wearing shorts on Saturday.
Fantastic event this weekend that we hope that all of you are a part of. Hold on here. I got to turn my head. Hello, Jay. Hey.
Hey. Angle's bad, isn't it? There we go.
How are we feeling on a Wednesday of all the stuff that's gone on? What's the proper emotion to have from Friday at about 10:30 to today? Future players are committing to Nebraska. What do you think the emotions are between the end of the Iowa game to today? With, oh, by the way, a coordinator leaving, some players putting their name into the portal. What's the emotion right now?
Well, today I feel great. I feel fantastic. My outlook is still positive with this program. My outlook Friday at 10:30 was not good. I was in a dark spot. I'll be honest, as I'm sure a lot of people were, because you just scratch your head and just trying to figure out how football game, and we know it was rather simple, and Iowa kind of got them in there, lulled them to sleep, and that's what Iowa does. Just wait for you to make a mistake and they capitalize. But I think what then transpired on Monday with Tony and then into the transfer portal guys, like, it hasn't been a good 4 or 5 days for the fan base. I get it, but I'm a firm believer that things happen for a reason. Whether it's a coach leaving, players leaving, I think there's always something good that can come out of it. I don't always go to the negative on things. I think everything's fine inside of Memorial Stadium with this staff and this program. I also think if players don't want to be here, then don't be here. If they are getting information that they don't like, or vibes they don't like, or they think the grass is greener on the other side, then go check it out. Go see what it is. And I think Coach Rule has gotten that message across to his players, and I think you've seen that in the last couple of years. But I obviously losing Tony, that hurts. That was rather unexpected, but you got to move on. You got to get better from it and find solutions and figure out how to get one more win next year.
Jay, do you foresee a change in defensive philosophy going forward with the departure of Tony White?
Potentially. I think that's kind of up to whoever they're going to bring in, whether it's John Butler or whoever it may be from the outside. I think they're going to have their systems that they want to utilize, and they're comfortable coaching and developing in. I think if a guy wanted to keep running the 3-3-5, I'm all for it. If they want to run a 3-4, great. They want to run a 4-3, awesome. I think that the coordinators will look at the talent that's here, especially I think you kind of build around your defensive line first. That's the most important aspect of me. Obviously, I'm rather biased, but I think that's the most important aspect of a defense is who are your 8 core guys that are going to play that spot. What do they succeed in? What have they succeeded in the past playing certain positions, whether it's a defensive end, tackle, nose guard, 4-eye, 5 technique, 6 technique, all those types of positions, how they move, how they're at the point of attack. I think that kind of is going to make your mind up on how they want to do things. But anything will work. If you have the talent, if you have the dudes up front, and you can make any any defense worked. I've played in 4-3s. I played in 3-4s. I like them all. I see the advantages to both. 4-3s can be rather more simple for younger players to understand. 3-4s can be a little more complicated. So can 3-3-5s. But I imagine whoever comes in and takes on this role is going to definitely take a deep dive and look at the talent, but also what he's most comfortable in. Maybe he played in this certain system in college and the pros, and obviously what he's most comfortable teaching, communicating, and developing players through.
You guys talked about this last night, and I think the Tony White discussion. Hey, he's making a move that is best for him where he wants to go. I don't think it's just I wanted to go to Florida State. I think it's I wanted to go to the state of Florida. So he goes there. He's gone now. I think his defense his philosophy will be good at Florida State because it's a different type of athlete. But you guys talked about this last night on Big Red Wrap Up, and it was a really good, reasoned conversation. Are you surprised at like the pushback on Tony's 2 years as the defensive coordinator? Because I mean, you can look at numbers, you can look at performance, but compared to what they had, what he inherited, and to give him enough to do, I'm saying that's a good football coach. What was your reaction to kind of the pushback or the fallout from Tony leaving?
Yeah, I think that's just the nature of people getting hurt. I think they want to automatically say, oh, perfect, right? He wasn't good enough. He was, they gave up 56 points to Indiana, and they were on the field for 14 of the first 16 minutes of the UCLA game. He's not good enough. I think that's their automatic response to things when they're caught off guard, and you're kind of not. I mean, I don't know if it's hurt, but like they're not happy with the decision. That's kind of how people kind of protect their feelings first. Listen, it hurts. I mean, it's not. I respect the hell out of Tony White. Just a couple times I've met him. He's a stand-up human being. He is a fantastic coach, person. And what he's able to do in the 2 years were for what last year, especially for what Nebraska had offensively, and to get that crew to go out there and battle each and every game where you didn't know if this offense could score 10 points. And you're able to keep your team in every ball game you played, maybe other than the Michigan game last year. But even looking at this year, you got a young player, young quarterback coming in. You got some different, a lot of the guys were back last year, but still things were a little different. And you lose your secondary coach that was here last year a month before the season. That's tough to deal with. And for the output and the results he got, and yeah, I understand that some of the results weren't there, and I know he wasn't happy with it, and no one should be happy with the Indiana performance and the UCLA performance. But overall, I think what he's done and what he accomplished there in the short time is it shouldn't be forgotten. And he's going to go down to Florida State, and he's going to do fantastic things because he's a good human being. He's a fantastic coach. He's going to love his players. Ton of talent there in Florida State. I know they had their issues this year, but they got some dudes on that team that he can help bring along and get them over get that next level. But yeah, that's just a human nature, man. People will never shock me or surprise me with how they react to things. There's always people that overreact, and that's what it's going to be. It's unfortunate, but I didn't see that. I saw it as, damn, we're losing a good coach, we're losing a good person. He has to go take care of some business down there that's really important to him, and I tip my cap to him, and I wish him the best.
We talk, and we have been talking about how everyone's got to get down to this 105, and so that's going to shape Portal Combat the most here going forward. Are there any positives to any of this, having to trim down these rosters at all?
Yeah, it's hard. I don't. It's tough conversations that you have to have with kids who, a year or two ago were getting recruited here, and you were told that you're going to give them every opportunity that they have to play, earn a scholarship, run out of that field at Memorial Stadium and play in front of family and friends and contribute. And now you're going to tell them, hey man, I'm sorry. Like, it's just, that sucks. That's obviously one of the negatives. But every single coach in Division 1A is going to have those tough conversations. I think roster management now. We are chit-chatting after the show last night. I mean, with the transfer portal opening up, signing day, you have all these teams who are trying to, especially the teams are going to be playing, whether it's a bowl game or a playoff or a conference championship. I mean, you have 8 schools out there trying to play in a conference championship game here this weekend, and the transfer portals open up. You have early signing day. I mean, you need a full-time staff on the side that's handling all this stuff, so you can have your coaches to manage, the day-by-day game planning, right? So I think this is becoming more and more like NFL. Obviously, NFL, you have 60 total guys in your roster with practice squad, maybe a few more, but it's craziness. It's chaos. I think right now I would say it's more negative than positive to me, because we just don't know what it is. We don't know exactly how it is. I think once you get a firm understanding how things are going to go, when do they need to get to the 105? Is it before spring ball, after spring ball, before fall camp, after fall camp, whatever it may be? I think from there it'll have a more positive outlook. But right now it's tough when you have to send guys home, because it's a numbers game. And I've been there. I've had those, not in college, but I've had those conversations to me in the NFL where, hey man, you're good enough, but for what the numbers are, it's not going to work here. So we got to let you go. And I've been a part of those conversations, and it sucks and it's not fun, but that's just, I guess we got to call college football a business now, and that's part of the business.
Right. Jay Moore joining us here on the Gary Sharp Show. Let's go over to offense. And this might sound crazy, and I may be going down the wrong path, but I want to engage in this conversation, because I look at Friday night, and that's game 3 of Dana Holgorsen calling play. So we've gone from I got to find a way to get the ball to 17 to I got to find a way to get the ball to Ja'Cory. So he's learning more of the personnel. Only 10 points scored, didn't score in the second half, but it comes down to execution. And when there is a play to be made, whether a ball to be caught or a throw to be made or a hole to hit, Nebraska missed on a couple of them, and I thought they left a lot of points on the field. But did you see, because this is what I saw, Jay. I think Dana schemed up a great game plan on offense. What did you see on offense in his third time that gives you some momentum or optimism for what this may look when he gets to pick his players that he wants, his staff that he wants, and gets more of a feel for what guys can and can't do?
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty darn good. I agree. I mean, they left an extra 14 points on that field on Friday night. You look at the overthrow that they had to Jalen Lloyd early in that first quarter. That could have been 7. Obviously, the narrow drop was 7. You have the missed field goals. So, yeah, easily called 11 points. It should have been a 21-point ball game, in my opinion. But that is what it is. And weather having those issues, I think that's some of it. But his ability to, I love his rhythm of his offense. And I've said this, and it's not about pace. It's not about going no huddle and up tempo. It's the rhythm in which plays are getting in the huddle and how they're getting out of the huddle with time. It just seems very consistent. When you kind of have that, and I've been a part of a lot of different teams, and I don't know if I've said this on the show before, but rhythm's huge. All OCs are saying, get out of the huddle, break the huddle. We got to go. Let's go. Rhythm, pace. Let's go. I love his ability to get a call in and get into the huddle. So you allow Dylan to go up to the line of scrimmage, dissect, see what's going on with the defense, make some changes if not. But I think that's huge. But his ability to get players pre-snap in situations where they can win and get guys open. And they're finding holes all over that Iowa zone defense. I mean, obviously you look at the plays, throws he made to Borkature and Banks and Fedoni and Barney and, just getting balls to Emmett Johnson out of the backfield. Some of those runs. I mean, the play I broke down a bigger wrap up. I love that call where you kind of line up in a bunch formation to the field side. It looked like you're on a toss crack to the field side, but then you get everyone going one way. You bring Borkature across formation. You kick out the end. You have a cutback alley right there. Love that. Fantastic, right? That little stuff that you might call them tendency breakers sometimes, or just you think it's got to be this, but it's that, and it drives coordinators crazy. Because I put myself in a defensive-minded, in their shoes, and formation recognition is everything in defense. You got to think, okay, you've seen this before. What have they done? You got to kind of go with that hit chart and say, when I've seen this formation, how many times are they doing this? And you got to kind of play the percentages and not guess, but almost maybe slide one way, but you're stepping in a certain direction, and that's all it takes. If you just misstep, and they can cut you off or get a crease or get you up, sucking up on a play action, and they can get something over you. That's the difference between an incomplete pass and a touchdown. So the ability, just little tweaks there, but I'm excited about what the future holds. You get an off season with Dylan, even an extra 14, 15 practices in the bowl game here before they even go to New York or wherever they end up going, to kind of fine tune this and get guys understanding it better. And then you obviously have the offseason, get your recruiting in. You're obviously potentially another wide receiver coach coming in to understand the system, and it's gonna be fun, explosive, and the best thing too, I think, with Danny, we've seen is holding the guys accountable. You better get it done in practice. If you don't, you're not going to play. And that's what this team needs. You got to go out and compete and get it done Monday through Friday. So obviously on Saturdays you can win.
Yeah, I've been saying all week, jokingly, but sort of seriously, people forget that the Huskers do have another football game to play this season. And you know better than anyone what that time period is like. What is the players' mindset as you're preparing for that? What are the advantages, but also what's the bigger negatives about that? Or are there any other than playing?
No, I don't think there's any, there's no negatives. I think as a player, and this is coming from a guy who we did miss one bowl game after the 2004 season. Was the first one we missed in a long time, but bowl practices, they're a grind. They're long. It's another spring ball. You're practicing against your team for 2-3 weeks. That gets a little old and that gets monotonous. So there's that aspect to it, but the coaches do a good job of where the guys who played all season, how many reps they got in practicing games, so you make sure that they stay sharp. But the positive is now you get these young guys, you come in and they're scrimmaging, they're going, whether it's good on good from the guys who are on the scout team, maybe the threes on versus the threes or whatever it is, right? You have some fun with it, have some competition, let these guys go out and play. But they've missed that. I mean, they missed that for 7 years, right? Missing 15 practices, that's huge. Yep. That's how you develop. That's how you just get those extra reps. You can't. That's the one thing about football. You can do all the 7-on-7. You can do all the conditioning. You could do all the weightlifting you want. But the only way to get better at football is playing 11-on-11 and doing it with pads on, because that's what matters the most. So you get that extra work. So really, it's all positive. Some players, I got to, guys like Ty Robinson and Nash, they play a lot of football. You get banged up and stuff, but this is a reward, man. And this is what you wanted. This is what you want. You want to be out there practicing. You don't want to be home for Christmas. You don't want to be back, already trying to finish up the semester with just classes. I know they're doing that, but you want to.
Oh, did the hamster fall off?
Jay's connection cut off.
He'll be back. He'll be back. I was enjoying listening to him taking me inside that. I mean, and you've been around it, covering these teams that go to bowl games, and that month there's so much crammed into that month of December, especially now that I can't remember who was saying it. Coaches barely have any time to breathe in preparing for a bowl game. So, so for the players, it might be the easier thing. Just go out and play football.
It's the calendar is a little bit different because coaches are not out on the road. It used to be a giveaway of what coaches were being retained or added if they were out recruiting, because you would see them in the homes, but you don't have that. So, coaches that have been reassigned or are no longer there, you won't know until there's an official announcement because they're not in the living rooms. Mm-hmm. Or you go, hey, who's that guy? I thought he was at Kentucky, and all of a sudden he's recruiting. No, they're not out on the road. So I just did the math. 85 practices over the stretch of Nebraska not going to a bowl game that other schools had that Nebraska did not. 85 practices. Whether you take advantage of all 15 or whatever you do, that's still 85 opportunities to get better that Nebraska football has missed since they were last in a bowl game in 2016.
Mm-hmm. And it does matter. It adds up. You're talking about competition. Young guys stepping up. Who could be that surprise dude that steps up next season, even before spring ball? Well, in the past 7 years, you're talking about, we'll see when spring comes. Well, now you don't have to wait that long. This next month here will be huge. And then getting to go play a football game and ending the season on a positive note. By positive, I just mean, a good taste in your mouth that'll spring you forward into spring ball. And that's something that cannot be taken for granted. And I think people will see that this year.
I wonder where the teams practice at the Pinstripe Bowl. Which, by the way, that's probably where Nebraska's going. When Brett McMurphy has shifted from Nebraska being in Charlotte to Nebraska being the Pinstripe Bowl against
Somebody has told them
Louisville.
something.
That's probably behind the scenes now of Nebraska's headed to the Pinstripe Bowl. But I wonder where they practice, because the Jets and the Giants are still playing, so you're not practicing at their
Technically, I mean,
facility.
they're-
Like, will Nebraska be at Columbia? And will they do this? So one of the great things about going to the consistency of the bowl games is the practices were open. Like back in the day, even when Nebraska was at the Orange Bowl, for the most part, every practice was open. Now there would be some where they would tell you to leave, but you could go, and as a media member who hadn't been able to do it all year, you'd be able to watch the entire practice. I don't know, like I don't think they'll announce.
So you'd geek out to that at that point because you're
and you know what this is. This time of the year, you want to know about the guys that haven't played. You want to watch the young guys that are redshirting, and you're like, okay, is this guy going to be counted on when you get to spring football? And of course, next year, I don't know what Rule will do. I don't know what he's done in the past. But that was kind of when you got to go see T.O. or Solich, they would have their entire practices open. But I wonder where they practice. Are they indoors?
They go to the Yale Bowl?
I don't know. But I wonder if they're indoors when they're at the Pinstripe Bowl.
Yeah.
That could be kind of expensive. When do you think Nebraska will leave? A couple of days before Christmas?
See, this game is the
28th.
28th.
Go to Times Square on Christmas Day. Go look at the big Macy's store if it's still there.
Go have a New York slice at Sbarro. Oh, I'm being very facetious here. You could have some falafel. That was delicious when we took the New York trip. Off a little cart there in Times Square. Oh,
A falafel in New York?
Yeah. Just hits different.
Falafel.
Just like a bagel.
Andrew says, and by the way, 80, just doing the math. So you can do the math. 85 practices since Nebraska last went to a bowl game that they have missed out on because they were done in December. 85 practices. And 15. So Nebraska practiced yesterday. So that's one of their bowl prep. 85. Andrew says, I'll still never understand why Frost didn't take the bowl in 2020 just to get the practices.
I would say yes, but something tells me there was more behind the scenes there. And
When you let the players decide if they wanted to go to a bowl game or not, that was your first mistake. You should have said, hey, we had a nice time in Rutgers, felt pretty good. Let's continue this. Instead, let the players decide, and the players said, there's not a chance that we're going to play in a bowl
practice there. Rutgers. Mike on the stream says Fordham, the alma mater of the great Mike Breen. But yeah, you could go to Rutgers, go to Piscataway, someplace familiar, and get a practice in.
A couple of things in the development of recruiting today, unless I missed it here. Cortez Mills has not decided what he is doing.
No, I've been keeping an eye on it. Nothing yet.
Okay, so that's a little.
You get nervous yet? Or
Well, there
it's
is
just-
one that will
it's early?
not. There is one that had verbally committed to Nebraska that is going to wait. Jeremiah Jones, who is a good-looking athlete, he's 6'5", will not sign with Nebraska today. So Missouri has been hot on his recruitment. You have until Friday, so you only have a couple of days to sign your financial agreement. But it does now, through a couple of people, that Jeremiah Jones will not be making his decision today. Does not mean that Nebraska is out of it, but the Murray, Kentucky product, 6'5", good-looking athlete. You know, Nebraska's going after big targets. If you look at who's on campus at wide receiver and what they have in this class, they are going after bigger targets. And he's 6'5", and he will not be choosing Nebraska today. Doesn't mean he's knocked Nebraska off, but I guess Missouri, Louisville is in the mix as well.
Just means Josh and Connor are in cahoots with him.
Yeah, not today. All right. Jay got kicked off. Somebody called in. Got to have better wireless there. He got kicked off, so we'll get him. We will get Jay back on before the bowl game. All right, quick break. We'll see what happens on the other side. I don't know what's taking so long.
I will tell you, we did get a text on the text line from listener Jacob. Says it's a beautiful day for Kansas to hopefully kick Creighton's ass. Good morning, Jacob.
Wow.
Hello.
John Rothstein has just tweeted out that Ryan Kalkbrenner is a game time decision
Well, Jacob can't see
for tonight's game.
Well.
Oh, that's right. Rothstein has him blocked.
Yep. Jacob wasn't here for his excitement. I think I just gave away which Jacob texted me.
Salty Jacob or just good morning Jacob?
I think it's good morning, but the saltiness,
Cherubic Jacob or sarcastic starting radio crime on crime Jacob?
I've rubbed off on him. I'm the happy one now.
Brandon Vogel coming in the next hour. We'll get his thoughts on what happened on Friday night, what happens moving forward. It'll be another day that there'll be a name or two will pop into the portal. And just think about a week from today, what you might be, your emotions as Nebraska goes shopping in the portal next week. Welcome to the new age of college football. But we will talk about Holgerson's 2-year commitment and what that means. And what it means with his new wide receiver coach and the wide receivers that they are pursuing. All of that and much more to come in the last hour. The Gary Sharp Show on 1620 The Zone. Remember when Calabrasca was a thing? When Mike Riley was recruiting all the California kids?
I do.
Yes.
We have a flip. Nebraska has flipped Cortez Mills, the 6'1", 180-pound wide receiver from Homestead, Florida, which used to be the training site, the spring training site of then the Cleveland Indians.
Shout out Broward County. I think of Hurricane Andrew, but anyway.
Much further south.
Yeah.
South of Miami.
Oh, it's Homestead. Yes, Homestead, yes.
Where the Speedway is. But the Cleveland Indians, when they were called the Cleveland Indians, used to have their spring training home there. Hurricane came through, destroyed the stadium, and that opened the door for the Indians to move. Let's see, they go Winter Haven, and then they eventually ended up in Arizona. So that's just a little side note on Homestead, Florida. But Cortez Mills has flipped from Oklahoma to Nebraska. And why I say Calabrasca, because on his commitment tweet, he says, Flobraska, let's do it.
Oh, take that, Flo Rida. We got a new one. I can do Flobraska. Where was this 30 years ago? Tommy Frazier should have started that. The original Flobraska.
Flobraska. There's Flo Rida, and then there is Flobraska.
Really rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, maybe not so much. Flobraska. He is the first to use it. Can we
get some boots with the fur?
Will this be a thing? Josh Hodson said we're not calling it that.
Well, the decision's been made.
Josh is out on Flobraska.
Works for me. If Josh isn't behind it, I guess that's I expect an email to go out to the whole station here saying that Flobraska is out.
It's a really good pickup for Nebraska. And Nebraska has worked on him for a while. Now remember, he's been committed to Oklahoma. I think he committed to Oklahoma during the summer.
Yeah, I think it was June or July, one of the two.
They got him here in January, came for an unofficial, and then his official was during the spring game. He took a trip to Oklahoma, and he committed to Oklahoma. I think he was here for the Colorado game as well.
I can see why he flipped then. That was a fun night.
But then Nebraska, probably about if the intel from our recruiting guys, they were saying about a month when Oklahoma really started to struggle and they had a rotating system at quarterback, that Nebraska really amped up their pressure and their recruitment of him over the last 4 to 5 weeks, where they felt really good about they were going to get a flip out of him, and watching what Oklahoma was going to do with their OC. So they hire an OC on Monday. I think Mills put out a tweet that had him in his Oklahoma gear on his visit, but Nebraska has flipped him today. He's a really good player. This is a big pickup for Nebraska in this recruiting class, especially if you have a guy like Jeremiah Jones from Kentucky who may not go to Nebraska, and you need wide receivers. And you just hired a young wide receiver coach who is good at evaluation and development, and you've got an intriguing wide receiver room that's got a fresh start with an OC that will help wide receivers because he knows that position intimately. This is a good pickup for Nebraska. But back to the Flobraska. I'm getting some pushback here. People are no, they don't want to
not even consider it.
They do not want to call it Flobraska.
Is it PTSD from Calabrasca?
What if Ja'Cory Barney comes out and says, I'm all for it, we're Flobraska kids? Like Ja'Cory Barney, right?
Give it a shot. I'm not. Usually I'm the one that's anti these things. And what if it works? What if it becomes a dude? What if they're all dudes?
Well,
I don't know. I'm trying to channel some sort of positivity here. That's
no. This is a positive thing.
This is a great thing.
He needs to be one of the dudes.
I love the name too. Just rolls off the tongue. Cortez Mills.
It's a good wide receiver name.
Yeah.
I don't know that Cortez Mills at 360 pounds playing on the offensive line would be as. But when you're
or a punter.
Has there ever been a punter in the history of football that has been named Cortez? Is he also the first Cortez that will ever play for Nebraska?
This is a good question.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a database.
Named after one of the conquistadors that helped to discover the Americas.
There's another player that's already committed that Nebraska kind of had to just reinforce that they needed him. Malcolm Simpson, the big defensive lineman, is still in. And if you've looked up the last couple of days and you have to cut down to 105, Nebraska's going to have to retool the front seven with young, speedy talent that is already here. The Van Poppels and the Keona Davises up front.
Mhm.
Judy coming back is good for depth and experience. They're probably going to have to do well in the portal in those positions because they're going to be young. They're going to rely on Rob Dvorak to have, that might actually work against Rob Dvorak, that he's going to have a young linebacker room if he was in contention for the defensive coordinator job, because would he be coaching a position? But you leave him at linebacker coach where he's really good. I don't know if that factors in as well. But Malcolm Simpson staying in this class is also pretty important for Nebraska.
It seems like a pretty good class, I would think. That's the positives of all this. When you talk about needing portal guys for certain positions, I guess that is the positive about the 105 is there's going to be guys in the portal that normally might not be in the portal. It's just a matter of so there might be some guys to be had, but it's going to be so critical to be spot on evaluating. And that's always a scary thing because you're always, is it hit or miss? What is the rhyme or reason? How one guy works and one guy doesn't, but you know what? We don't make the salaries that they do, so maybe that's it.
Kansas State just held off Oregon. Oregon tried to flip their 4-star tight end, Lincoln, Linkon Cure. So he is committed to Kansas State. Oregon, I think, is trying to flip everybody. Dan Lanning's a problem.
Yeah.
Now, I like the swag of Dan Lanning. Don't necessarily like his late game play calling or his situational awareness late in games.
They can't all be bangers.
But he's got some swag. They might be the least talked about number one team in the country.
Yeah.
They had
people kind of
in the bloated Big Ten. Well, they have 2 all-conference players yesterday. Dylan Gabriel, Offensive Player of the Year in the league. And then they had one other player.
Tez didn't make it? I know Tez got hurt, but...
No. I think that they just have 2. But it's a bloated Big Ten. I look at Ty Robinson finishing 3rd. Is that in an 18-team league? Is that first? Is that a first team guy?
You need
but
five,
Oregon
6 teams.
Would you guys? I mean, have you talked much about Oregon? Have you watched much Oregon? They're the number 1 team in the country.
Have people forgotten Oregon?
Well, I don't think people have forgotten, but they are hardly after the post Ohio State game.
That was the last almost full Oregon game I watched.
I watched the Wisconsin game because I really thought there was a chance that could be the game where everyone's got one where they jump up and get you. And I thought that was that game. I thought Wisconsin poured everything into that game. And obviously what happened after said game. So, yeah, they just, you know what? But I would like that if I were Dan Lanning, because now I can maybe play a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. They don't care about it. Nobody wants us there. They don't even remember we're in the Big Ten. They think we're the Beavers. Just go on, just make up stuff. Kirby Smart say 7-5, and yeah.
Do you think though that the head coach at Oregon, who has a tendency to show psycho tendencies? Thinks about a chip on the shoulder,
or is it just permanently there?
Can people
Which
bring?
There's nothing wrong with that.
So I'm pro Dan Lanning. I think he's going to be good for the Big Ten. Oregon has come in and, I mean, look at men's basketball, football. I mean, Oregon likes their place in the Big Ten, but they're so far out there.
Yeah.
They're out on the West Coast. You have to remind yourself maybe once in a while that they are in the Big Ten. Like if you're watching Washington UCLA last night, which I did, you have to remind yourself that is a Big Ten opener. But Oregon being way out in the Pacific Northwest, even with the flash and dash, I have heard of less chatter about the number 1 team in the country this year. But I love Dan Lanning because I think Dan Lanning is good for the Big Ten because Dan Lanning makes people uncomfortable. And I think people need to be uncomfortable. I think sometimes, whether you're at Ohio State, whether you're at Michigan, of course, where you're at Nebraska, where you can get too comfortable and you get into a routine and no one bothers you and you just do this, this, and this, and you win 6 games every year or you win 8 games every year. And you're like, you know what? We can live. This is kind of, Dan Lanning comes along and Dan Lanning makes people uncomfortable because he's comfortable being uncomfortable and their program is always on edge. It's nice to have Oregon and to have the swoosh because you can recruit to Oregon and you don't have to explain to people who the Ducks of Oregon are. They become a brand.
Mm-hmm.
They become a brand that they recruit to, and they're pretty damn good on the football field.
They put a duck in the river in Indianapolis.
Yeah. But can you bring yourself to dislike Dan Lanning if you are on the fence or you haven't made up your mind because he's new to us?
Only when he's beating you. But if you're a casual, he's hard not to like because he's a dude to the point where when you say they didn't get Lincoln Cure, I'm surprised, and that's nothing against K-State. That's just, I feel like if Dan Lanning wants a dude, he typically gets a dude.
What's their, unless they're beating you, and I mean,
and letting you know about it.
Unless you're in, like if you're Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, which you're in that tier of the conference, you probably approach this question differently.
Or Washington because you hate the Ducks.
But I mean, why hate Oregon? Like from Nebraska's perspective, do you hate Oregon? I mean, you got to worry about yourself first.
Yeah.
But do you hate Oregon? Again, Dan Lanning makes people uncomfortable, and that's why they don't like him. And it's going to blow up in his face. I mean, taking a sledgehammer to a Washington helmet at halftime on Saturday, and Washington and Oregon are a huge rival, but that was to motivate his team, is they smashed a Washington helmet in the locker room. Lanning's got a sledgehammer. They did it at halftime. It wasn't before the game. You know, he has the great speech before they went out and beat the crap out of Colorado last year. That great speech. And he knew he was being filmed, and he went into it, and his team responded, so good on him. There's going to be a time where everybody will laugh at Oregon because they will get beat, and Lanning will get his...
And he knows this.
He will get served.
But he won't back down.
But he makes people uncomfortable.
Yep.
He's on edge.
If he's your coach, you love him.
He's the new Urban Meyer of the Big Ten.
Look out, ladies.
I loved when Urban Meyer came into this league.
Yeah.
Because this league was so comfortable. So comfortable.
Like a country club.
Let's just go to the Rose Bowl every year. And you know what? Maybe we're going to win the national championship. And then you had a guy come in who is edgy, who is cocky, who has a major brand behind him in the world famous The Ohio State University. And
just ask him to tell you.
What did he do? He said, you guys are recruiting the wrong way. We're here to win championships. This league should be pursuing championships. And the old stodgy people that were comfortable were like, I don't know.
That ain't going to work.
He's like, I'm just telling you. And then I'm going to go out and do it. And he did it at Ohio State. So he made people uncomfortable. And you can either ignore it or go, I know what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
There's on a much lesser level.
Is it adapt or die? What do they say?
No.
Yeah.
And isn't that a Dan Lanning phrase as
yeah.
well?
Yeah. See, it's just probably, it's ingrained in me, and that's what he is. I mean, he's a dude.
On a much,
and the team has adopted his personality too.
They have, and that's key. Like you can't be in some people's world a D-bag, okay, and have your players not respond.
Mm-hmm.
You if you're going to be a D-bag, your players kind of have to be D-bags,
mm-hmm.
or they have to live on the edge where they are always pushing the pile. Okay, they're pushing the button. They're always looking to score. They're always looking to beat you. They're not happy beating you by 3. They want to beat you by 7. They want to beat you by 10, 20, 40, whatever. You always got to be like on the edge. So on a much lesser scale, it's kind of happened a little bit at Nebraska.
When T.O. was intimidating Ralphie and the game was over because of that?
Well,
if he's not afraid of him, we're not afraid of them.
I'm not saying Nebraska during that stretch, Jimmy, was like comfortable. Because I don't know that I would be as a player or a coach comfortable coming up short. Or looking at my roster, which I have a lot of faith in, and then looking at the Florida schools you're playing and going,
Mm-hmm.
But things became uncomfortable where this isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
We just went and played in the Citrus Bowl, and our guys quit, and Georgia Tech was better than us.
Mm-hmm.
So you're uncomfortable because that's not who you are. And then they played with an edge because they were very comfortable being uncomfortable. I think for the first 21 games in Matt Rule's tenure, this program operated like its head coach was in year 1 or year 2 of a 7-year deal. Very comfortable. You have a 7-year deal for a reason. I'm going to give you time, and we must give you time, and that makes absolute sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought Rule, there's been times where he's run his program and he's coached like, we got 7 years.
And then that changed.
And that changes because all of a sudden you're uncomfortable. You lose to UCLA. People are doubting. Your next door neighbor who has all the faith in the world in you, all of a sudden is doubting what you're doing. And questions arise that haven't come up. And so you went from being comfortable because you're sticking with the process. And I'm not saying they deviated from the process, but they did a little bit. You're sticking with what you believe in that is eventually going to get you over the top because you're comfortable. You've done that before. You've seen it. That's the way to handle everything
Tried and
here.
true.
Being good cop. Okay? I don't want to be good cop, bad cop. I got to be good cop. And then you get beat and it's uncomfortable because of all the chatter and you're going, Jesus, are we going to have a November not to remember for the good or the bad? So you're uncomfortable. And then you hire somebody who is very much comfortable being uncomfortable because he keeps people on edge by his actions, by his accountability that he demands, and probably his own life. I mean, I don't think Dana doesn't strike me as a comfortable guy that's very predictable.
I mean, he's not at the coffee shop right now reading a book, listening to us.
No.
Okay.
Every day is a new day.
Yeah.
We got to be on edge. You got to handle like you were. You know what? You might be free flowing. You might be out there. You might be, I am DGAF guy, but I got to have an edge. I don't want to be, I don't want to be comfortable. I want to be uncomfortable, and I'm okay with that because I handle those challenges.
Yeah.
And then what did you see with Matt Rule? Matt Rule started coaching like a guy that is on a 1-year deal. Now, do you want squeezed Matt Rule or do you want sense of urgency? This is not acceptable. How do you handle that? That's on that person. But that's the change that I saw. Dan Lanning and Matt Rule all of a sudden got into the same conversation in this. But I think Rule is operating like a guy on a 1-year deal. He's not on a 1-year deal.
Right.
Okay.
Nothing like that.
He's here next year. You need a 3 full years at least, and you would like more because you need stability in that. But instead of going, you know what? Game 20 of my 7-year deal. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. No. Now I operate like we're all on a 1-year contract. We might not be on the hot seat. We may not get fired. We're not going to get fired after they go in 6-6. But I'm telling you, miserable way to live when you think you're better. And
you know
his
you can be better.
his actions said there's a sense of urgency. Got to get this done. And then also, we're better than this.
Yeah.
So being comfortable being uncomfortable, I think it's not easy to do. It's not made for everybody. But look in the college football world. The Urban Meyers, the Dan Lannings, and do what I think is transpiring in Lincoln with Matt Rule. And there's other coaches that are out there. You either get the result you want, or it's a miserable failure, and you're like, man, should have just stayed comfortable.
And sometimes, and Verza said this, like you said, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I was talking about this last week, and that credit to Matt Rule for doing this, because he even said, I go and get someone that understands this more than me. Basically saying, look, this isn't my ego. My forte is defense, but I need an offensive guy, so I went and got one. And trust me, he'll have that handled. He'll make guys uncomfortable, and then I can do the rest of the stuff.
A former Pac-12 rooter texted into the show. He says, you love Dan Lanning? Which I do. He says he's a tool. He said, I wish Idaho would have gotten the job done in September. Said, Lanning is Hurley. I don't care if you win. I don't want my kid playing for you.
Said Lanning is Hurley.
That's a good comparison because UConn, who plays Baylor tonight in the stores, I don't think Caravan's playing for them. But that's Dan Lanning and Danny Hurley that's a good comp.
Polarizing.
Okay, they're both successful.
They get you talking.
Now, Lanning hasn't played for a national championship yet.
He also hasn't melted down at Maui 3 straight days.
We don't know that.
That's true. Could have gone on vacation.
He may have been on family vacation. But Hurley is the epitome of being comfortable being uncomfortable, because he is all over the spectrum of emotions and what he does. But at the end of the day, they know their program. They recruit players that are comfortable in that system. And what do? They win.
They win.
They win.
Which is what you care about. That's all you care about.
I mean, you want your... I don't want to say if you're all over the map and you're like, oh, you're on edge and you're... that's there's coaches that are like that their teams don't respond to it, but that's on you. Is you want to be able to look at a head coach and then look at his team and go, yeah, they match.
Mm-hmm.
Words that are said, actions that are done by the coach should be a reflection on the team as well. There's no denying what Lanning does. Oregon matches the players on the field. What Hurley is and does.
Michigan last year matched Harbaugh.
Exactly.
Especially down the stretch.
Exactly.
He gets suspended. No worries here. They had his back because they were an extension of him.
Now, I did catch something yesterday when James Franklin was speaking. Is he was talking, because I think there is some jealousy towards Oregon.
I mean, those unis the other night, I liked them. Some people didn't.
They're a monster brand.
Yeah.
They're a swoosh. People know Oregon. They are they know how to market themselves. And
have for a long time.
Joey Harrington.
People forget that program used to be a very, like an Ofer program.
You remember when Joey Harrington had the big display in Times Square?
Yep.
That was kind of, Oregon was starting to take off.
Mm-hmm.
Chip Kelly's there. They're innovative. Like, whoa, so they've taken it to a whole nother level. But James Franklin was talking yesterday, and one of the parts he was talking about Oregon, that this is when a coach goes there, he's taking a crack at their opponent, but he's also taking a crack at yourself. He talked about the resources at Oregon. Now, Phil Knight wants a national title before Phil Knight is up in the shoe heaven. They have a lot of resources. Phil Knight's not afraid to spend. Wouldn't it be nice if Warren Buffett said, before I pass away, I'd like Nebraska to win a national championship? And Warren Buffett goes all in on helping Nebraska win a national championship.
Ooh, next do the Cowboys. I like this game.
Well,
although they're waiting for something, never mind.
That's kind of what Phil Knight is.
Yeah.
That's what Ellison is at Michigan. He's an older guy, wants to see him win multiple national championships. I got the means. Boom.
T. Boone back in the day. Yeah.
Yes. So Phil Knight wants Oregon to win a national championship. So James Franklin yesterday is talking about the resources at Oregon. So there's a little bit of jealousy there because they do have a lot of resources. But I also think he did one thing yesterday that I'll never be able to figure out. James Franklin.
I don't think anyone will.
James Franklin always appears to be the guy that is not happy with where his feet are. His feet are in State College. Pretty good program.
Great ice cream program, obviously.
Got a lot of empty calories on that schedule to get into the playoff.
Nice
they do.
tie-in. Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
And who knows what's going to happen on Saturday night inside of Lucas Oil Stadium? Are they going to get exposed in a big game with James Franklin? But when he was talking about the resources at Oregon, I thought he's also talking about his school.
Mm-hmm. Subtle message. Talking through the media, the Phil Jackson way. Yeah. Use it. And he's a kind of guy that would use the media to make a point across and then campaign for the job when Dan Lanning leaves one day. Never mind. Yes, I agree. He's always the guy that's never happy where he is. It seems like, or at least it seems like it. And if they want to win Saturday, let Kotelnicki cook. Let them scheme your way, because that's the only chance they have against Oregon. Because now in the old system, I would say I don't think anyone's stopping Oregon. But in a playoff, I'm anticipating there'll be some sort of chaos. I still like the Ducks to go far, probably to win it all. But let's see how it goes. But there's bound to be some upset.
A couple of things in recruiting. So now Steve Wiltfong has predicted that Jeremiah Jones, the athlete from Murray, Kentucky, who had verbally committed to Nebraska, but the last month there was a lot of interest from Mizzou. Winner, chicken dinner for Eli Drinkwitz.
Ew, why?
So Wilt Fong has a Fong bomb for Missouri to flip one of Nebraska's verbals.
Didn't you see Crouch's 96-yard run in 2001? Come on. Thought I was going to mention the kick. Did you? No. It's other games.
Or did he see that Mizzou is about to have a first-round NFL wide receiver?
And Miller Moss coming in there. Well, he's more to Iowa, but he was linked to Mizzou, so they're active. They're going to be getting somebody to throw them the ball. And yes, they do got a great receiving core. And we did get our Maction Snow game last week, but it was in Columbia. So
first time since I think 92 that Mizzou had played at home in a snow game. There was a graphic on the screen, and they played Iowa State.
Everyone plays Iowa State in the snow. Those are just the rules.
Hey,
those are the Big 8, Big 12 rules.
Can you imagine what a banger of that game would be late in the season in the old Big 8
on that
between Mizzou, on the
rock hard AstroTurf?
Yes, which cost Tony Van Zandt his career.
Cost many their career.
But yeah, that was they threw up a graphic on the broadcast of the last time that they had played in.
That had the Prime Network Big 8 game of the week written all over it, or 1 o'clock no TV.
We're going to need some context. I'll let you guys figure this out. I'll mention this, then we go to a break. So Dana Holgerson is on the network.
I was just going to mention that.
What is this? So he said, I caught on fire 3 times.
Oh, what? I saw something about Dana, but it was not this.
What did you see?
They're doing a little bit of a live stream recruiting show, and he said that they are targeting 20 to 30 transfer visits in the off season.
Are they all on offense?
So I did not see that. I do not know, but I did not see this thing about I was on fire. That is news to me.
We'll try and figure out what he is alluding to, but we will talk about him when we come back. Brandon Vogel is about 15 minutes away as well, and Cade McNamara has entered the transfer portal. Remember 2 years ago? Iowa's got to start having quarterbacks in the portal.
Tommy on the stream, yes. KU, the real Jays. No, I'm not even going to go there. Anyway, KU will cover the 4 tonight. So, and yes, Captain, I'm wearing that jersey.
The Paul Pierce jersey.
Oh yeah.
If they win tonight,
I should have worn it today. Hell yes. I like how you think.
Wear it tomorrow.
Yes, I'm wearing it tomorrow.
It's the Gary Sharp Show on 1620 The Zone. Nebraska going to flip their identity. It's going to be an offensive school. They'll win a bunch of 44-31 games, 45-31 games in the Big Ten.
Corn raid. Trying it on for size, see if I like it. I don't know. Maybe there's got to be something else.
20 to 30 portal visits. That's from Dana Holgerson that they are pursuing.
He doesn't sleep.
Love them some wide receivers. They've had a good day with the wide receivers. Cortez Mills was flipped from Oklahoma. Now Jeremiah Jones is going to be flipped from Nebraska to Mizzou. But you added a 29-year-old wide receiver coach who has got a former Kentucky wide receiver that is in the portal. There is a 4-star that had committed to Kentucky that it doesn't look like Nebraska had interest before they ever were going to hire the wide receiver coach from Kentucky, but it looks like he will stay with Kentucky. But I would think so. Dana Holgerson, one of the things to sign the 2-year deal is he had to be given full autonomy. Staff, philosophy, players, all of that. Rule gave him the garage door to the offense, the garage door opener. Yeah. And he said, I only have one of these.
Just do it.
So Holgerson gets that, and he signs the 2-year deal, so he makes a commitment, and then he can go cook with the staff that he wants. Mm-hmm. And in the past, he's gone with young wide receiver coaches and young quarterback coaches. The wide receiver coach that is coming yesterday, DeKel Shorts, DeKel is how you pronounce his first name,
I remember
from Kentucky.
WVU.
He's only 29 years old, and he is played for Holgerson. He's coached for Holgerson. He coached Tank Dell at Houston. So in a young age, there is more to his resume than Garrett McGuire.
He has a bright future.
He's coached at a Power 4 school. He's also recruited at a Power 4 school. And so he's got connections, and they're going to use those connections. And what I say yesterday, if you're looking for the next DC defensive line coach, offensive position coach, if you can bring them from somewhere where they can bring players, even if it's just one. Is that guy a difference maker? Is that guy going to be on the field? Is that a guy that can help other people in your room teach how you operate? But the offense is all Holgerson. So when he says 20 to 30, as Peter was alluding to, that must be just from the offensive side. Because defensive side,
that's kind of what I assume.
Because defensive side, you don't have a coordinator, and that's probably going to be right now more on Rule on who they're going to approach in the portal. But I think the defensive coordinator position will be locked up here shortly. They put out some feelers outside. There is also an internal candidate. I think if Phil Snow remains in a role at Nebraska, John Butler is your defensive coordinator, because I think Phil Snow will mentor an internal candidate. I don't think Phil Snow would be involved if there was an external candidate. So watch that. If Phil Snow is still around, that leads me to believe that John Butler is going to be the next defensive coordinator at Nebraska. But back to what, out of context, if you were listening to Dana Holgerson, and he said, I've caught on fire 3 times. On cue, I think I know what this is alluding to.
Stop, drop, and roll.
I think this is what I'm alluding to in out of context. But guess what this email is about. Love him as an OC and recruiter. This would be like chasing that old girlfriend, boyfriend you had a wonderful but short time with. The magic was special, but was there at that one time. Can't chase that moment again with the expectation it will be the exact same. Things have changed. It's gone. Would you guys like to guess what that email, who that is alluding to?
Billy Crystal's character in Forget Paris, which was a great film in 1995. That's the point. You had to forget Paris. It wasn't the same again. That's my first guess, but I don't think that's it. Great movie, by the way.
Yes, it was. This would be like chasing that old girlfriend, boyfriend you had a wonderful but short time with. We have not brought up his name, but I think I know who this is. I think this person got our show confused. I don't know if middays or afternoon have talked about Scott Frost of Central Florida.
We have not. Although we mentioned it long ago.
I believe this is what this email is, and they got confused on the show. because there are reports that Scott Frost is not only in the mix, but may have moved to the top of going back to Central Florida. So that's why I think that
I say good for
that
him.
emailer is. The reaction has been kind of mixed.
Makes sense.
Like,
you could argue you should have never left.
well, there are some people that were like, I'd take him as an OC. There's
You
the
always
guy
said he can scheme and call plays.
There's the guy that, do you have it in your DNA to say, I just want to call ball? I want to go back to just calling ball, and I just want to be an OC. I don't want to deal with all the head coaching stuff with the NIL and the current landscape.
Mm-hmm.
He would be a guy that would fit under the plan of Gus Malzahn. I just want to call ball. That's what I do. I love it.
Which
That's
is what I would
It's
picture.
my wheelhouse. I don't want to have to run a program again and all the other stuff.
It pays well, too.
All right. So, David, thank you for the email, but I think that's to the wrong show. But I'm with you. Hey, things have changed. It's different. Orlando looks different.
Mm-hmm.
They're in a different conference.
So you've told me.
Yes. All right. Brandon Vogel from Counter Read is coming up next. His thoughts on what has happened already today. Essentially, Nebraska is done with their recruiting class. It went quick. No Michael Terry. Yes to Cortez Mills. Probably no to Jeremiah Jones. And Merritt and Parker and Mosey all committed. So there you go. There's the thumbnail, and all the Nebraska guys committed. Now need to get Tyson Terry and Pierce Mooberry healthy. Because Tyson Terry, healthy, could now be in the mix for some defensive line play. And also keep in mind, Tyson Terry is an old college freshman. Tyson Terry is 19. I mean, he's already got a grown man body, but he's an older player. I mean, he'll be one of your oldest freshmen you've ever have. But they got to get him healthy first so he can wrestle, and then try and be in the mix next year on Nebraska's defensive line. All right, B-Vogue's coming up next on 1620 The Zone. All right, let's welcome in our good friend from counterread.com. They are extremely busy right now. It is Brandon Vogel. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good. Oh, are you under the weather?
I am a little under the weather, so I apologize.
Oh.
Apologize for my voice. It's about 85%. So,
all right.
Well,
did you encounter Nick Grimm?
Upgraded from earlier in the week, so we're getting there.
All right. Well, if you need to tap out, just let me know because I don't want to stress your voice. You need your voice.
No, I'm okay.
All right. Let's start with today, which there's a lot of things that about the calendar of college football that they need to work on, but they moved up the signing day. The portal opens on Monday, but Nebraska's lifeblood is always going to be high school recruiting. And this is a class that will probably get inside of the top 20 for the third straight year, definitely inside of the top 25. Is there a player in this class with a limited roster now, faster development and evaluation that you look at and go, that's the number one guy they have to hit a home run on? That they got the commitment. Now in his career at Nebraska, he has to be a home run guy.
Yeah, it's probably Merritt in terms of that designation, which I know he's the top rated player in the class, but when you look at what Nebraska had to do to get him, he was the first guy to get his letter in. I think he takes on a pretty huge role. This class is heavy on defenders. So you can see that's kind of the thrust and the need right now. And I think there's a lot of good options in there. Christian Jones would be another one right up there near the top. So, but in terms of a guy, I would say Merritt. In terms of a position, I think it's probably that middle level of the defense in this class.
Brandon, do you foresee anybody that might be a surprise in there that we're not talking about that we could be talking about in time?
I like Tyson Terry quite a bit from right there in Omaha. Pierce Newberry, I think, is another local kid or Nebraska kid that's really intriguing. So those are two in the kind of local area that came to mind. Juju Marks, I think, on the offensive line is another one. I mean, one of the things that really jumps out to me about this class, it's by average player rating from 247, it's going to be the highest Nebraska's had since at least 2011. So in the Big Ten era, this group of 3-stars, there's 15 3-stars in this class. 10 of them are at 88 or 89. At 90 is when at 24/7 you become a 4-star. So like the quality in this class, I think, is really high top to bottom. It's a little bit unique in that regard.
So there is Simpson is a big keep for Nebraska on the defensive line. Some depth pieces have put their name in the portal, and all of a sudden we look at the depth chart in the front 7 and we go, whoa. Your thoughts on the front 7, the way it looks right now after departures from Williams to Butler to Prince Will in between?
Yeah, it was gonna be a year where you had a little bit of uncertainty about that group, and that was before losing a guy like Butler, I think, in particular, and then paired with Monmouth. So it's gonna be young. Like, I still think Nebraska has a chance to be pretty good up there, assuming no other big departures, which might be too much of an assumption at this stage in the calendar. But I think they'll be all right up front. There's gonna be some change at linebacker, where some of these guys that we're talking about today, I think, are gonna have a real shot to play quite a bit.
Somewhat piggybacking on that, when the portal opens, is there one position or area where you're like, they need to after that now before anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I would look in the secondary a little bit. Nebraska it's really front loaded in terms of experience. Like, it's got a lot of DBs on the roster. A lot of them are young. I think that's one where if you could find a veteran, it could help you. Based on the recruiting class that are actually signing today, it seems to me like they're just going to plan to get receivers in the portal, which I think is smart. There's always going to be a lot of those, and it's probably a little less risky than high school recruiting at that position specifically. We'll see if they do anything at running back, and then with Kalen leaving, the quarterback question comes in a little bit more than it would have if he were still here. So, see if Nebraska tries to add a little bit of depth that way.
Hey, what's your reaction to 2 years of Tony White defense?
I mean, it's tough to find much fault with it. Like, I think everybody else jumping into the situation he is at Florida State certainly took me by quite a bit of a surprise. Like him leaving, I think that was kind of felt like the expected outcome at the beginning of the year. This year didn't quite go as well as everyone thought, so then it became a little bit more clear. But Florida State's pulling the classic move of, oh, we just had a really horrible season. We got to make these coordinator changes. And if they work, great. If they don't, you can be looking at an 8-month situation there. So that one surprised me. But defensively, like in terms of how it all fit together, how it played in the Big Ten, for this to be a guy that Rule hadn't worked with previously, I think 4 out of 5 stars at least. It worked. Like they played defense to the level that Matt Rule teams have in the past, and this was with a new hire.
Kind of piggybacking off that, and I know it depends on who the hire is to succeed Tony White, but do you foresee a philosophy change that maybe might fit better in this league?
I mean, the 3-3-5s become pretty common across college football, but it wouldn't be a surprise to see Nebraska be more of a 4-down team, depending on who they hire there. I mean, that still is kind of the classic setup in the Big Ten, and you got to be able to stop the run, which Nebraska was able to do, particularly a year ago. Now that with putting those 2 Tony White seasons together and putting it in the context of his whole career, 2023 stands out a lot more as one that was like a lot higher than kind of his typically high level. So that was something of a quirk. Now that the book's closed on that I did notice when looking through things this week. But yeah, I don't think Nebraska has to go out and try and find a 3-3-5 guy, though a lot of people might like it given what they saw from that defense the past 2 seasons.
Do they need a familiar guy, like with the personnel, or do they need just something new?
I think something new. Now, could something new be a guy that Rule has worked with in the past? Yeah, I think so. Like it's going to be a high stakes season, and securing Holgerson was probably in my mind bigger than losing White, given where Nebraska's at right now. Because when Rule said, I think it was last December, like we've always played good defense. Like the numbers back that up with him and his teams at Temple and Baylor, and that's one I kind of buy from him. Like I do think a Matt Rule team will always be pretty strong defensively. Doesn't mean this defensive coordinator hire doesn't matter, of course, but I think they'll find somebody to kind of implement things pretty quickly, and it should be a pretty good transition.
Do we think that with the time off for bowl practice and finally for Dana Holgerson to sort of breathe, if you will, to sort of install some things, could we see some extra things installed that's more his offense to the bowl game? Or are you thinking that's more post bowl game planning in the next season?
No, I think we'll see it for the bowl game. I mean, Holgerson sort of famously was we do all of our install like the first 3 days of fall camp, and then from there, like you're just kind of honing it. So I would expect him to try something similar here. I mean, there's kind of maybe you still use the same terminology just so the players aren't learning a new language before they go play their first bowl game since 2016. But I would expect there to be some new concepts, because that's kind of how he's always worked in terms of keep it simple, something you can install quickly, and then from there you just hone.
We'll get you out of here on this, and I really appreciate with your voice and you're busy today. Regular season is over, 6-6. Going to a bowl game, that's important because the 85 practices that this program has missed out on since they last went to a bowl game, they'll get the ability to have 15 of those. That's a huge deal. Does the record reflect the performance, in your opinion? 6-6.
I think Nebraska underperformed a bit to like its absolute quality. And you can look at the close losses. You can look at losing twice at home as a touchdown favorite. I think things like that. Those two games are Illinois and UCLA. Even if you get one of them, are kind of the difference between having a season that I think everybody puts like up on the shelf is like, okay, that's progress. That's took a step forward, versus now where the bowl game clouds it a bit, but you're in a little bit muddier waters in terms of like what this season was relative to the trajectory of the program right now.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Hey, I hope you feel better. I know that you and Aaron will be really busy on counterread.com. What can we look forward to coming up today and moving forward as we get ready for the bowl?
Yep. So we've got our live chat going on today over there at Counter Read. You can find that. It's a subscriber only perk. So we'd love to have anybody hop in and join us. Aaron will be there for the press conference today, which might not be all that much about recruiting. We'll see.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try and put some of that together with the other happenings of the week with Tony White and Holgerson and the player departures, and just kind of take a breather for tomorrow's newsletter and be like, here's where we're at in terms of what Nebraska's roster looks like now.
Hey, fantastic stuff. Get better, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
That's
Thanks,
Brandon Vogel. Hey, not bad. He made it for 13 minutes. I felt like we were starting to get a little scratchy.
Had a little Vito Corleone going on. Just a little bit.
Yes. All right. Again, Matt Rule will speak later today and at 1:00, and it will probably be a lot more non-recruiting day stuff.
And he'll be like, really? No questions about recruiting?
Well, I would like him, and I think there's, the handshake thing will come up because that's the first time.
Yeah, since.
Did you know that was happening? Has it been happening? Does it have anything to do with rotating captains? Then there will be.
Was it like COVID where we
Tony, it'll be, what are you doing? What's your plan? What are you looking for? You signed Dana to 2. Is Dana really going to have, he's going to have 14 guys on offense? And
are you cheering for KU tonight also?
I don't know if that'll come up. Maybe on a side session.
It's not a sip. Yeah.
We're back with you tomorrow. Jimmy may or may not be in a Paul Pierce jersey tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
KU and Creighton tonight.
74-63. Creighton comes out hot. They're going to be very pumped to play on that in front of that team in that arena. But Kansas pushes that lead close to 20 at some point, then comes back down 74-63. Still a hell of a game. Glad they're playing. We need more of it.
All right. We'll discuss that tomorrow.
Have fun, everybody.
We'll
Enjoy
see you
the
at
game.
6. Crossovers next.